Right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
Assalamu
salam.
alaikum to
Walaikum salam.
everyone. Everybody on Facebook land.
Well, good morning, God morning, God morning, God morning.
Yes. Come on in, y'all. Come on in, share this powerful testimony that we're about to have this morning. I am so excited. Welcome everyone to Tuesday Tea, the Women of Islam, a living testimony. Y'all know, if y'all been tuning in with us, it has been nothing less than epic. I mean, every time we have somebody on, it gets more and more exciting, more loving, sometimes more emotional, because it's a testimony, right? So my beautiful sisters for this morning, I'm going to have them to introduce themselves. And of course, y'all already know this Tuesday tea, you should have something to drink. Y'all put in the chat, let me know what y'all drinking and what's the medicinal purpose of what y'all drinking. Or if you're not drinking nothing right now, tell me what you're going to be drinking later on. So the people who go back and look at the replay and read the comments, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to have that. Somebody had something, y'all. It was, I think it was ginger. It was a twist on it, ginger, lemon, and something else. Maybe it was ginger, lemon, and turmeric or something. And I was like, I'm going to try that. Yeah, that sounds good. So, yeah, make sure y'all drop it. Drop what you're drinking. Like the video, share the video so other people can watch with you. I'll start with myself. I am Sister Allison Muhammad. I am the CEO and owner of Sacred Love Academy, where I teach other coaches how to have a successful coaching business. I also am a spiritual empowerment coach. So I have my own clients, womb care practitioner, where I not only service women as it relates to womb care and releasing trauma, fertility, and all that good stuff. I also train in postpartum care. Can't forget that. I also train other women on how to do the same, trying to make that a norm in our community like it used to be. Because too many of us are having womb ailments and we're losing our wombs. And it's pretty much because we've gotten away from our original culture and our way of life. And we live among our enemies. So we have to know how to maneuver that through and come into our empowerment. So, and of course, I have different products. I have Sacred Jasmine Tea, Womb Jewels, AKA Sacred Yoni Eggs, and also I am an author of the infamous book, A Diary for My Daughters. So that is me, and I am drinking. I wish I could say it was something healthy, but it's coffee. It's coffee. All right. So
You
later
get a
on
pass
today,
this morning.
look, and that's this morning. Later on today, let me turn my volume up. Later on today, I am drinking a regimen that is very healthy that I'll be drinking all throughout the day. Because we got to get ready for our birthdays, right? Unless Sister Naira talk about what she got going on today. And the mug that I have this morning is my Able mug.
All right.
See that. So excited. Shout out to the Able program. But in the Nation of Islam, I'm so excited when we get that back going. So, Sister Naira, my beautiful co-host for Tuesday Tea, if you could please share what you got going on over there, what you drinking, and what you do, how you feeling this morning.
Well, thank you, Sister Allison, and to all of the beautiful sisters that's on the line. Y'all know I am blessed and highly favored.
Come on now.
We got to constantly remind ourselves and manifest that, okay?
That's right.
Manifest your blessings this morning. Bring it on into existence. Manifest God's favor in your life. wife, okay?
That's right.
So with that being said, yes, ma'am. So I am Sister Naira Muhammad. All praises due to Allah. I am the wife of Brother David Muhammad, happily married to that black man.
Don't start that. Don't start that.
Yes, we're talking about a living testimony, girl. Right, so I'm happily married to that black man. I am the founder of, and of course, he's the co-founder of Repair the Black Family. And our goal, our mission, our passion is to help repair and restore the Black family. Praise be to Allah. So I do offer my life coaching skills. I am a life coach, right? Praise be to Allah. I also am a transformational speaker. Praise be to Allah. I'm an author in the making. I ain't got that all the way down pat, but I am one in the making. All praises due to Allah. And we do have some beautiful products on our line, on our website, which I encourage you all to go to www.repairtheblackfamily.com. We all into immunity boosting, right? We have the sea moss, we have your elderberry, we have your natural herbs and teas. We got teas coming out, right? Well, we have herb teas, but I'm saying I got some vibrational teas, some chakra teas coming out. Praise be to Allah. And what am I doing this morning? What am I drinking this morning? Sister Allison, first and foremost, I have your beautiful cup.
Oh,
which says Sacred Love Goddess, right? Praise be to Allah. So if y'all don't have this cup, y'all got to go get this cup, right? Go on her website, get the cup. Because I'm drinking out the gold cup, which means my life is golden. Praise be to Allah. Okay. And in closing, since I have this yellow cup, I decided to match the cup with the tea, which is yellow dock tea. Okay. So this is an herb. It's a blood purifier. My husband is like the expert, so I have to look at my notes, okay? It's a blood purifier. It pushes out fats in the digestive tracts. It helps remove toxins from intestinal tracts. It's high in iron, okay? So women, we know we need some iron, right? Praise be to Allah. It helps remove fibroids in the uterus. I thought you would like that, Sister Allison. Okay, with your wound care going on. And it treats inflamed nasal passages. Of course, it does a lot more, but these are the simple things that we put, well, not the simple things, but these are the things that we wanted to highlight as it relates to that tea. And I want to definitely say this, because this is like really important to me. I am a spiritual physician. Okay, and in that title by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I do offer mental health therapy. Praise be to Allah.
Yes.
So that's all that I have to say. I love y'all. I'm happy to hear from our guests this morning, and we're gonna rock it. Y'all drop y'all comments in the comments. What you drinking? Praise be to Allah.
All right, Sister Naira, go ahead and bring on the next person.
Yes, so we have our dear, beautiful sister, Sister Naomi, who is out of Phoenix, Arizona. Praise be to Allah. I know her roots is New Orleans, right? My husband, you know, they got that New Orleans thing going on. All praises due to Allah, but she's a saint. But our dear sister is such a beautiful sister, a powerful sister. I met that sister, I can't even begin how many years to say ago, but her tenacity, you know, is just being as a Black woman is just phenomenal to me. You know, she has 2 beautiful children. She's married. Praise be to Allah. She's a sister and she's a soldier for Muhammad. So let's bring on Naomi so that she can introduce herself to some and present herself to others. Come on in, Sister Naomi.
Assalamu alaikum. Sister Naomi. I'm a mother. I am a wife. I have 3 beautiful boys. I have a 9-year-old, 5-year-old, and a rambunctious 2-year-old. Let's see. I would call myself a very holistic person, and I'm getting back to myself, discovering other parts of myself and flowering into what Allah wanted me to be or what He put me here for. I am an auditor. book one Dianetics auditor, but I am also a class 4 auditor. I train in Miami, so I can, get a person on the e-meter. So it's a spiritual physician. So I not only use that on myself, but I use it, on my family and friends and things like that. I am a writer, and I am slowly working myself back into that. I used to write when I was very young, and now I'm feeling more inspired to get into that. Currently working on my boys have me being a manager. They decided they wanted a business of their own. So I am about to get started. Well, I'm started on that, but I'm really putting that into play. But just finding myself at this point in my life at 35, I turned 35 August 29th, and just growing into flowering, I guess you can say, but just working on me.
Wow, praise be to Allah. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Sister Naomi. I look forward in the conversation that we'll have for this morning. All right, Sister Zarifa.
Praises be to Allah.
This beautiful sister, first of all, I'm so happy that you came on this morning. When I called to ask her, I was like, yes. I actually thought she wasn't going to do it. I was like,
oh, no, ma'am.
She's so beautiful. I've known her for a very long time. Anyone who knows me, you know I'm from Mississippi.
Yes.
And we go all the way back from Mississippi. And I've watched her just grow and develop into the leader that she has become. It is truly amazing. She's like a sister from another mister, okay?
Come on now.
That's who she is with me. And we had the beauty of coming in at like a smaller mosque. And when you do that, you really have an opportunity to make those connections. And really, it got to the point where we could go anywhere. You're on like security details. She could give me a look. I know exactly what that means. I can give her a look. She knows exactly what that means. And we're just tuned into each other. But I'm so excited for you all to hear her story for this morning and give her testimony, the power of her testimony. And inshallah, it will empower you as well. So, Sister Zarifa, can you tell them what you're drinking this morning, the benefits of it, and whatever you want us to know about you in your introduction?
All praises be to Allah. I am Sister Zarifa Muhammad. First of all, let me open up in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah.
Yes.
And I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I'd
That's
like to greet my sisters and all the listening audience in the greeting words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Praises be to Allah. I am Sister Zarifa Muhammad. I am drinking, so I won't forget. I'm like Sister Allison. It has no benefit, but it's coffee. Well, it does have a benefit to it, but not the way I put creamer in it. So it does. And
I feel you on that.
Says boss lady, but it puts in the bottom of it, it says, I'm not bossy, so that when my husband sees it, he knows that it does not mean that I think I'm running things.
Right. Come on.
So praises be to Allah. I am a student coordinator over a city, is Athens, Georgia. I am also a cancer survivor. Praises be to Allah. 5 years now, going on 6. Inshallah, it will go on 3,000 more years.
Come on.
I plan on still being around here with the happy water, the good water, the good environment. I am also a business owner. Well, I have several business ventures. I either have partners, or I've invested in businesses, or I've actually started businesses. So my life is pretty full with that. I have a business consulting firm. We do really good. We're like a think tank. We help young businesses grow up and decide what they want to do, first of all, and if they're able to take it to the next level, we help them do that. I'm helping my son right now to start a clothing line. So we're working on that. We have FJE installations, which we install cables for people's homes who get Viasat, Comcast, things like that. So we do that. And I also have a demolition company that works out of DeKalb and Fulton County, where we demolish houses. So that has been really nice. I don't go out and demo no houses myself, but I do go out and look and see how the property looks, and give the quotes and stuff like that, and then come back and the guys go out and demolition the houses. I don't, swing no hammers.
Right. In other words, she tell people what to do.
Right.
Well, okay, that's another way to put it. But Sister Alice and I have been knowing each other a long time. I'm talking about before we actually got registered in the Nation of Islam, which was back in 89, 90.
Yes.
And we've been knowing each other that long. And so I have a son. I'm a wife and a mother. I have a son, but he's 21 years old. He's no longer a baby. Our children kind of grew up together.
Yes.
Sister Allison came to Atlanta first. I went to North Carolina, and then I came to Atlanta. So I think I might be following her. We can just, put that on the back burner. We won't tell anybody about that. But so far, that is me as of right now. And I'm so happy and honored to be on the show. I thank you so much, sister, for the honor. And there was no way I'd say no to you if Allah blessed me and said the same on anything that you ask, because I know it's always righteous. So I'm not worried about that. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Praise be to Allah. Well, thank you all. We're going to get into it. Now, a little side note, y'all. When Sister Naira mentioned she was married and that beautiful black man of hers, and I was like, look, don't start that. Don't do it, okay? If you have not seen my posts recently, all jokes and fun, everybody. So apparently, I don't know how Facebook works, right?
Right.
And it had come to my attention that you could not tell that I was married to somebody. Even if you went on my page, you could not tell because you didn't see a picture of me with a man. I don't get that, but okay, fine. And that my status did not say married. So I went to check and it didn't. I was like, oh, okay, well, let me handle that.
Right.
So I put, yes, I am married. I had no idea Facebook would make it, I just got married. Like, yeah, right. I'm married now. So it left a whole lot of speculations of what that meant. So I let everybody play with it for a while, for about 24 hours. No, not 24 hours, but overnight. I let everybody kind of think like, what is it? Did she get divorced? Or did she, I mean, what's happening right now? So that's an inside joke. For those who do not know, I am married.
Yes.
Mother of 4.
Yes.
Married to Brother Miko Muhammad for a very, 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 very long time. So
yes.
That's that. Glad we cleared that up. I am so excited, everybody. I did get a chance. I did see a few of you all coffee, bio coffee, a whole lot of comments. So awesome alaikum, everybody. Who is your husband is funny. Who is that beautiful sister in the green? Okay.
Praises be to Allah.
These mushy people, I tell you the truth. Oh my goodness. Yes,
he's married.
Right.
Right, that part.
He is married. And she is married to Brother Charles Muhammad, by the way.
Well, it's now Abdul Hamza, Sister Alice.
Abdul Hamza.
Yes,
which is the person that's asking the question, y'all.
Yes,
so, okay, fine.
Yes,
we're going to start bringing them on the show in a minute.
Right, that part. My husband must be busy because he would have been uncommon by now.
Right. And he may have. It's a lot of crazy.
He must be busy because I know he has work to do this morning. So praise be to Allah.
That's
you know, I am so excited. I want to go ahead and get into it because I wanted to say also with Sister Naomi, I really want you all to hear her story and her powerful testimony as well. I've maybe seen Sister Naomi on 2 other shows with Sister Naira. And when I heard her, I was like, oh my goodness, she is like my sister somewhere, like for real. I really vibe with her. So it's like she the other sister from another mister. Okay, fine.
Right.
So I'm really, really excited about that. So this show, and as you know, the show for the rest of September. Are we in? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we're in September, sis.
September is the Women of Islam, a Living Testimony. So, you know, I really try to bring on power for you all to really relate to as it relates to Muslim women. And, you know, it was a comment in one of the last shows that we did about God in general. You know what I mean? And it's really not about, you know, religion or all that. And it's really not. And if you really listen to the testimony of these women, you'll understand that all of them have grown to a level of universal level in how we show up in the world and how we serve humanity. The way we devote our lives and our devotion to the God is in Islam. But really to show you how you show up in the world is totally up to you. And that's somebody who has a thorough knowledge of themselves, that they can be firmly in who they are and give other people the space to be who they are. And, you know, when you come from the guys that run this whole thing, it's all right. You let people do what they do and how they do it. So I wanted to start with how I always start, and that is how you came into Islam before we really get into the meat of it. So Sister Zarifa, if we could start with you, how was you introduced to Islam?
Well, I was living in Texas at the time, and my mother had been listening to one of those radio shows, the talk radio show, WMPR. Remember in Jackson? Mm-hmm. Yes. And she heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan one morning, and she said she sat straight up in the bed. She was like, oh my God, this man is who I've been looking for my entire life. So when she sat up and she was listening to the minister, she thought he was this real little black man. She thought he was so black you couldn't even see his eyes. The way he was talking, she said that kind of power came through. And so when I came home, which was often, that weekend, she had me to go to Jackson to try to find the tapes and things from that mosque, because I'm from a smaller town in Mississippi. I guess population maybe 5,000 people, but more than likely not. But so we went over looking for the tapes and the books and what she'd heard on the radio, and that's how we started to get into interacting with the believers in Jackson, Mississippi. So when she introduced that to me, I was out in Texas. I know it was Allah's intervention, because I was going to, since I didn't grow up in that area, I was going to some type of international church that I was visiting. Somebody had invited me to. And I walked up in that church and knew I was not supposed to be in there. And I'd been born and raised as a Baptist, but I knew I wasn't supposed to be in there. It was too many other people in that church at the time, and the preacher was one of the other people. And wow. So I knew right then, oh, I'm in the wrong place. You know, I'm definitely not supposed to be in here. So I was coming back to ask my mom about that, and she told me about this man. And that changed my life. I mean, wow. You know, Islam has been nothing but a life changer for me.
Wow. So it was from just your mother mentioning it.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And then my sister came in. And my brother is now, since I'm a study group coordinator, he's coming to the study classes.
Praise be.
So,
Wow.
You know, it's a beautiful thing. It is.
So were you one of those people where when you came in, you heard what you heard and that was it? Like you were in from that point forward?
Oh, yes, ma'am. And
wow.
I was in from then on, but it wasn't until my mom got sick. I've been in the nation then maybe 3 or 4 years, and she got sick and had to stay at home one Sunday. It wasn't until then that I realized I was in Islam for me. That we weren't just going to the mosque together and we had to be together. No, Islam was for me. And then I got ready to move, so I got sick once and she had to go to the mosque by herself. So that's how gracious and merciful Allah is. He didn't just shove it on us at one time, because she lives in Mississippi now. Had he done that, we might have been like feeling so much loss that we couldn't have gotten to the mosque. But he helped us to gradually move on by ourselves, seeing our own paths in Islam.
Wow,
You know,
that's
which is
beautiful.
the reason I'm so proud of you, because I've watched you grow. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Beautiful
Yes.
thing. They really don't
Wow.
know the Sister Allison I know, with that peaceful spirit. I've never seen anybody give birth to children like Sister Allison. I know I was supposed to talk about me, but I've never seen it. I mean, she takes on such a peaceful spirit when she's pregnant. It's just amazing to watch when you know yourself. Yes, it is. I've never seen anything like it, Sister Allison. I know I mentioned it to you before, but it is beautiful.
Yeah. Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. Thank you for that. These little people, wow, these little people that come through, and this will be another show. But we talked about, and I think I mentioned a couple of times, maybe on the show with Brother Chester, pardon me. Most of my children communicated with me before they came.
Wow.
Like I had an experience with them before I even knew I was pregnant. So I was expecting them. There was an agreement. So yeah, that's where that whole calmness, we're going to have a show about. That. All right, Sister Naomi, can you tell us how you came into Islam, how you heard about Islam?
So I am actually a nation baby. My father came in prior to 75. He came in, I believe, in 72. And my mother came in when, well, they didn't know that the nation was rebuilt, right? She came in 1980. So I've always been under it, was born into it. But I did not accept until I was 23. And that was December 9th of 2009. I accepted for myself. I think both my parents were laborers. My father was a minister. My mother was a sister captain. So them always been in the mosque. Every time the doors open, we are there. They started out a study group in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we actually used to have it in our home. So on Sundays, clear out the entire living room. The brothers used to come put the chairs down, and then all the children would be in the den with us. But they used to have the study group, and it eventually grew into a mosque. So I've always had it, but I did not accept it for myself until, like I said, I was 23. There was a big group of us that grew up together, and most of them got registered. But for me, and being completely honest, I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I've lived a sheltered life, not understanding fully what it meant to have parents who are Muslim, and we have a big family now. It's 13 of us, and technically altogether 15, but 13 of us were raised up together. So it is 6 girls and 7 boys. So of course my mom was on us like white on rice, this is what an MGT is. So I just want to know pieces and parts. So when I turned 17, I graduated at 17, and then I went off to college, and I left, right? So I had my little wild and out days and stuff like that, but a lot was beating my behind the entire time. And then when I came back home from, I think like not my first year, like my second, third year of college or something like that, I started to come back to the mosque. But I guess you can say I have had both worlds. Like most people looking at me would not know that. But so I have been in the trap houses. I have been in the clubs. I have been with every thing that you can possibly think of that we're taught that we should not be around. I completely engulf myself in those things, but I am so grateful and thankful to Allah that my parents put in me what they put in me, because there have been moments and times where I should have lost my life from being in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people, but Allah had his hand over me. And so when I turned 23, it was myself, one of my sisters, whom I won't mention her name, and it was another sister, both of who were registered. I took them out one night to the club. Like we went to a club and we partied hard, and we was, drinking and acting a fool. And by Allah's grace and mercy, we made it home because I, that night, was driving drunk. Well, while I was driving, some things started coming out in the car that I had no idea about, that had happened to both of these sisters. And that night, I sat up and cried the whole night. And then when I woke up that morning, I told my sister and that sister, I say, I apologize. Like, I'm sorry for, we know we shouldn't be doing this. And Allah would smite me if something happened to any of us. But I think that was the moment for me when my light came on. And it was like, you cannot continue to live like this. Because at that time, I think I had been an undercover alcoholic for about 4 years and no one knew it.
Wow.
Drinking myself under the table, going to work drunk. Like, I mean, just trying to drown out things that had happened throughout my life. And that was my defining moment. So I literally, and when I say I was an alcoholic, I mean, every day wake up, there was no water in my refrigerator. There was juice, there was vodka, and there were wine coolers. And that is what Naomi Muhammad had every single day, right? Drink myself to sleep, all that. And then I just gave it up. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. This is not right. Allah is literally calling me back. And I went to the mosque. That was that Saturday. No, that was the week before. I went that next Sunday, and then I gave it all up. And I stood up, and from then on, it's just been like, this is my life. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came in the person of his Father. And thank him. And although I did not understand it then, I understand it now, why my mother and my father did what they did out of what they understood. So I'm now imparting that on my children, but I've never looked back. So since December 2000, that's how I came to Islam.
Praise be to Allah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. Thank you so much for sharing that testimony. You know, it's interesting to hear the stories and the testimonies of those who came up in Islam, in the struggle that they have, trying to live between two worlds. You know, how they were brought up, the nature that's within them in a world that's contrary to what their nature is. So I can only imagine how many people you just helped by giving that powerful, powerful testimony.
Praises to
Before we go on, any questions or comments, Sister Naira?
I mean, wow, you know, I just want to say that, you know, that beautiful, both testimonies are beautiful. And Sister Naomi, you know, the time that we're in, the hour that we're in, you know, in the period of separation that we're in as a people, you know, as a culture of people, but specifically for those of us that's in the Nation of Islam, we understand, if we truly understand, we're in the hour of separation. And to hear your testimony and us kind of like being disconnected from a structure, that testimony, for those that hear this now and that will hear it, can save a lot of lives, because I know that there's a thing where Malcolm X said he didn't know that he was falling until he fell, right? And when it comes to our young people, the youth, Satan is working full time to get the minds of our youth. And growing up in the nation, I have children, I have 5 children. All of my children are adult children. And one of my sons is in college, and we just literally had this conversation the other day when he came home for a visit. He says, Mom, he said, where I'm at, there's no other person where I'm at that believes that Allah came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. Wow. There's nobody. That's nowhere in my world. So I have to constantly fight against what's normal, meaning lay in the bed and go to sleep, don't get up for Sunday webcast or whatever, which is normal for him. I mean, you know, what he's used to doing at home, but at school, it's a battle. Not because he doesn't want to do it, but it's just not his culture. So to hear this it brings me more up into an understanding of the struggles of Muslim children.
Right.
And opening up more and praying Allah, whoever hears this that have Muslim children, opening up more with compassion and love to be able to help bring them on the other side of that life of being raised as a child in Islam. And yes, I was a laborer too. You understand? So it's very difficult, and that's real. Like what you just said is like real. Even if you're not in Islam, you grow up in Christianity with parents that's pastors and whatever. This real, right? And the children will say no caps, so this is a real thing. I truly believe that in this moment that you just really freed, a lot of those who may have gotten trapped and want to come back and don't know how to come back. The most powerful part of this testimony is it's nothing like a made up mind. And I thank Allah that you made a decision to come back to Allah in the midst of the storm.
Yes, ma'am.
Praise be to Allah. Sister Naomi, before we move on, is there any advice that you would give? This is a two-part question. Is there any advice that you would give to parents who, whether they are Nation of Islam parents or Christian parents who are raising children in a world like this? If you would share something with them to help them to understand something that might help this, what would that be? And also, if you could tell those children, if you could advise them of something, what would it be?
I'll start with advising the children. It's hard. Like I used to oftentimes hear people, and I still hear people say it to children who were born and raised in a nation and just like under some kind of religious whatever, right? That you're blessed and you're ungrateful, because we through A, B, C, and D, and then we found this, right? But I don't think sometimes we look at the struggles that we have by being in, because we're taught one thing, but sometimes what we see is completely and totally different from what we are being taught. And I heard the minister say one time about the way that we do our children, right? Where some of us want to force, children to be believers, but the children, Allah is the only person, or God, or whatever you call him. He's the only one who makes you into a believer. He is the only one who turns on your light, because he's the author of your life. Our parents, which I'm actually at a point now, well, lately I have conversations I didn't speak to my father for, I want to say, a total of 6 years. Wow. I cut my father completely off and was like, you a monster, you're this, you're that. But as a child, I don't judge my parents, because now that I have my own children, I understand the fears of your children going out there. So be patient with your parents, because sometimes what they're doing is out of love. It may not seem to us as if it's love, but they're doing it from a place of love because they have been out there and they don't want us to get caught up in the traps and things. But listen to that voice that's inside of you. Allah will always talk to you and cover you. Like, I can bear witness. Like, I used to tote guns. I used to be with people who was in gangs. I used to sit right in the rooms with people who getting high, drug dealers. That was what I ran along with for a long time. And most people would not have known that about me. But I would be sitting in there and the voice of Allah in me would be like, Naomi, you know better. You know you shouldn't be doing this. And while people are getting high, I'm in there talking to them about the reality of God. Now, what does that look like?
Come on.
But it was like Allah was not allowing me to run away from what was in me. So if it's in you, it's going to come out of you.
That's
not
right.
put the messenger of Allah to sleep in yourself.
That's
Don't
right.
do it. His hand and his covering is on you. And I can't say it enough. It has been so many times that I should have been dead. Like, and I'm not talking about like maybe just injured. I'm saying dead. I can remember one time I got married when I was 19 to my first son's father. Young, I'm just gonna say young, dumb, think I'm in love. But I look back at it now and I say I was in stupid. And
I
I'm
think
hanging.
most could relate to that.
Yes.
Come on.
I
Yes.
was hanging out with him, and at that time, his brother had some at a club fight brawl or whatever. Somebody was trying to kill him, and he actually killed the guy. Well, the guy was related to gang members and stuff in Chicago, so they was riding. We was in Mississippi. They was riding through Mississippi and things like that. And I remember one day sitting on out in front of my ex-husband's great grandmother's house, and we was sitting on the table. It was him, his cousins, and a bunch of friends. And I got real sick, just all of a sudden, just got really sick. And I was like, I need you to take me somewhere else. He was like, no, you're going to stay right here. I was like, no, I need you to take me somewhere else. No, I just wait. And I was like, look, call your cousin right now. Somebody need to come get me. You need to take me away from it. And I didn't know. I just knew that feeling. And my mom used to always say that Allah is always with you. Wherever you go, he is with you, right? And so when I left, 15 minutes later, they had the other guys, friends, had passed by and sprayed the entire yard with bullets. You saw bullet holes everywhere. And where I was sitting at, there was a tree behind it, and there was a bullet right where I was sitting at. Now imagine if I had not listened to the spirit of Allah within myself at that time, I would not be here. So just know that your God walks with you. He covers you. And his way of beckoning you to come back to that which was put in you when he created you, when you was in your mother's womb. So don't ever give up on yourself. Don't ever feel like, people judge, but Allah is the only reality.
That's
and
right.
that's the only person who you should be worried about and what you're doing, and really strive. It's hard to grow up in this world and not be a part of it. It's hard because you're the eyeball out.
That's right.
Right.
That is okay. It is better to be the eyeball out and then to be with your Lord.
That's right.
And what I would say for parents, talk to your children. A lot of times we say, you're not going to do this.
Come on.
Don't do this. Don't do that. But you don't give the reasons why. And the great question that we can ever ask is why. Sometimes it's just a means of them not understanding what you're trying to keep them away from. And then also share your background and your history.
That's right.
Come on.
Because sometimes we look at our, parents, we like, okay, well, you just a saint, you fell from. Share. Why?
Right.
Right.
Because it'll give us a better understanding. And don't be a tyrant. Don't take these teachings and rule, with a hard iron fist over your children's head. Sometimes and then what parents grew up with, and now that's two totally different worlds.
Right.
So you have to understand that it's different. It's not the exact same way. So you have to have patience with your children, and a lot of patience, and love on them, and communicate is the number one thing. Because in Black parents, Black households is do as I say and not as I do. That's not how that works. Because a lot of them, you be the example, and then we will follow right behind you. But if you say that, we don't want no pieces and parts of what you're talking about. And everything that you kept us away from, we're going to, as soon as we can. As soon as we can get loose, we're going to go wild out. So be patient with your children. And do it out of love. Don't do it out of fear because of what you went through. Do it out of love and share your story with your children. Because I'm 35 and I am not even going to sit here and lie. I'm just finding out a lot of stuff about my mother and my father in the past 3 years. And it helped me to understand them. And I told my sister and them, I said, with my father, because out of everybody in the house, I was that child. You brought me up in the teachings. You told me speak truth to power. You told me to bear witness against myself. And then when I do it, I get beat to smithereens.
Right.
You said my sister and we would all get in trouble. Everybody literally would look at me and be like, just shut up, Naomi. Like,
shut up.
Don't say,
right.
just don't say nothing. But I couldn't, because my mother, what she nursed off of when I was in her womb was Brother Jabril's study guides. So I am a very straight cut and dry, and I don't know no other way to be. And that got me in trouble with my father a whole lot of times. But I'm gonna tell you the beautiful thing is interesting. Everything happens when it's supposed to. My father, maybe last week sometime, called and we was talking on the phone, and I could hear him on the other end of the phone choking up with tears. And he said to me, well, he was like, he said, you know, out of all of my children, and it's 15 of us, he said, wow, I look back now and I thank Allah for how you are. He said, and I didn't understand that then. He was like, you know, the child who asks all of the questions. And I wish I would have known that and looked at it differently then, but this is how I look at it now. And I could hear him choked up with tears on the other end. And to me, that was his way of apologizing to me. I may not ever get I'm sorry from my father, but at 35 now, I know my father loved me, and he just did not understand me then. Did not understand the spirit of Allah in me, and he mishandled me. But I love him to pieces. Like, can't nobody tell me nothing about my dad. And everything that he did with me growing up has made me into who and what I am, and it allows me to help other people. So I wouldn't change anything for the world. So I don't judge my parents for anything or any mistakes they made with me, because it became my experience, and my experience then helps other people and other parents. So all praises due to Allah.
Wow.
Damn, praise.
Powerful. That is a powerful testimony.
Yes,
sis.
it is.
Everybody who is listening, please, if you haven't shared the video, please go ahead and share the video so others can take advantage of this information that's coming through. So, Sister Zarifa.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to, if you would, share, you mentioned that you are a cancer survivor. And can you walk us through two parts of this I'd like for you to share, if you would? Because at this point, you're in the Nation of Islam, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Your thought process and your faith when you even heard the news, okay, you have cancer, and how that walk was for you as it relates to your faith.
Yes, ma'am. If you don't mind, I'd like to digress just for a second to what Sister Naomi was saying.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
You know, Sister Allison, and I don't know if you experienced this, but we've been in the nation for so long now, Sister Naomi, that, you know, when I started to tell my story, it never even occurred to me about my past life, is basically what I would call it now, to even share that part of it, because I've been in the nation longer than I was alive when I accepted the teachings. So it's like that part, you know, if you watch science fiction or whatever, you become a vampire. Well, you're going into immortality. You forget the old life when you were mortal. You see what I'm saying? And that kind of is what's happened. You know, my son is 21 years old, and he says exactly what you just said. I'm like, God, did I have that child too? You know, it's like, that's how powerful that is. I'm like, oh my goodness, did I give birth to sister? Because he is just like that. And you're right, we have to share our experiences, but it's been so long ago, you know, that it's almost like it's non-existent. Because we did the same things you did. We just did it we did it back then. You know, before we came into the mosque, you know, I went to college. It was all kind of stuff. When you used to get off, they used to come pick you up at the dorms in buses to take you to the club at Alcorn State. And when you got off the bus, you stepped off the steps, they'd hand you a joint to go into the club with. Yes. So you're right. It never hit me that maybe we do need to share, but I do realize why we don't share. We're trying to keep you from that. We're saying, don't reinvent the wheel. It's already round. There's no need to try a square wheel. It doesn't work, you know? So that's the approach we take, but it's not right. We have to, you're right. We do need to share, because everybody has to grow in stages. We grew in stages. We were given that opportunity. And if we go back and look at the way our parents raised us, my parents were strict. And I still fell right on out there with the crowd. So I can't look at it like, okay, you were born in the nation, so you definitely should be doing what's right. You should definitely be doing X, Y, and Z, 1, 2, 3. And I thank you for that. So if I don't get nothing else, that has really helped me. And I pray to Allah that I can deal with my son or talk to him differently, or even handle his idea or his ideology about how he sees things in this world differently. You know, because I'm like, okay, this is the way it is. This is what we're taught. We can't deviate. You know, this ain't the time for that. But so I thank you for that.
You know what, Sister Zarifa, before, and I'm getting, okay, let's stay here for a minute.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yes,
before we move on to the next part of this thing, you know, it's interesting because I want to say something about your baby.
Yes, ma'am.
That when I look at him, I follow him on Instagram.
Oh
now,
God.
See what I'm saying?
You see, okay. I already know. Yes.
That's what I do when people tell me they follow my children on Instagram. I be like, okay. Whatever. That child is nothing less than a God. I don't care what he posts. I can see it in him. I go through his thing, and I don't care what he posts.
Yes, ma'am.
You see God in him. You know the light has touched that baby. I mean,
yes.
Some of this stuff, you know, Auntie be like, oh
God. Yes, ma'am.
Oh my God.
Yes, ma'am.
But even in that, regardless, I can see the light in him. So we're different. I tell them, I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you smoking marijuana. You cannot hide this glow. Like, everybody sees it. Stop trying to fit into where everybody else, because trust me, in a few days, they'll be running to where you at.
Right.
So they, like Brother Sharif always say, the minister always said, hold your position.
That's
Just
right.
hold your position. You're in the right position. And, you know, one thing that I wanted to share as a parent, that was the best thing when I heard Honorable Louis Farrakhan say that. Share your story with your children. Like, in their list of heroes, you should be one of them. You should tell them your experience and what you've come through. And I'm telling you, that has helped me in my relationship with my children so much. So I told you how I was with them, or Sister Zarifa shared how I am when I'm pregnant.
Right.
When my children started, you know, coming out of my influence and coming into the world and being influenced by their peers, I could share with them, let me tell you what you made out of. I know what's in your DNA. Because I know what's in mine, and I know what I was thinking when I was creating you. I know. Let me tell you, this has happened. This is a weakness. It's in the DNA. So, and when I would talk to them, they'd be like, how'd she know?
Right.
How'd she know? I know, because I know what's inside of you. I mean, literally, your blueprint. I see your makeup. So I'm saying, hey, when you going into this area, when you get stressed, you probably feel like this. You want to do this. Your appetite is this. I already know what it is. And I'm not ashamed to say, oh, okay. Instead of us always saying, okay, been there, done that. Let me tell you how this ends. That was my favorite thing. Listen to me now. I've been there, done that. Let me tell you how it ends. But really have a conversation and say, I mean, I really have been there. This is what happened. And I have my children who only know this Muslim woman, and they're like, Mom, like, for real?
Right.
You did that? Whoa. So guess what happens? When something comes up in the world, I'm one of the first people they come to. I thank Allah for that. I'm the
Yes.
first and when it first started, I'm telling you, I'm on the other end of the phone like, Lord have mercy. Okay, do I really want to hear
Right.
that? Like, for real, you really gonna tell your mother this, for real. But I had to really
Right.
just suck it up and listen to what my children was saying to me so I can advise them through the period that they were going through. And now it's even to the point their friends now come to me. Mom, such and such is having a problem with this. They want to talk to you. Can I put them on the phone? So I'm telling you, it works if we're willing to share our story and don't pretend like our children came off the mother plane. Because the truth of the matter
Right.
is, I was talking to someone, Sister Zarifa, from back when our children was at MUI. The
Oh,
fact of the matter
wow.
is, you didn't build a world for them.
Right.
That's the fact. They don't
That's
have a
right.
righteous society to come up
Right.
in where there's no unrighteousness around them. It
Right.
doesn't exist. So,
Not
you
yet.
carry that however you carry that. But
Right.
yeah, that I wanted to share that. Sister Naira, anything you want to add to that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm just sitting out here, just being engulfed in all of this beautiful transformation of energy. So I thank you all. And as I was listening to the testimonies and reflecting over my life, reflecting over how my mother raised me, and reflecting on how I raised my children, by Allah's permission, two different walks, but same principles to the degree that it is the same. My mother, her life, my mother and father, their life was an open book for me. The way I was raised, I seen everything. We didn't grow up into a real religious household. We had religious principles, right? But we wasn't like, okay, go to church. We went to church, but it wasn't like routine like my children grew up. My mother has always been very open. I mean, she was so open to like, for me, it was like too open. Like, okay, I don't want to hear all of that. And she was very raw with us, right? Like, she would say things that you don't want to hear in the language that you don't want to hear. And I'm not just talking about curse words. I'm talking about male and female relationships. Okay. It was like, oh God, like it's way too much for me. However, growing up in the world and having that experience, which is mother with, right? Having that experience, having the street knowledge, having all of that, having the principles of going to church and having all of that, coming into Islam and trying to find my way, being put in a position of authority within 2 months and trying to learn this lifestyle called Islam, right? So, and with, guess what? With 5 children, okay? So I raised my children on a post, right, of service.
Yes.
However, in that, I was still very open with my children because that's all I knew how to do. My children know my lifestyle. They know what I've gone through, what my family has gone through. We have a very open and communicative type of family. So when my children started to go through their trials of life as Muslim children, because I raised my children in the work, meaning they was a part of it. It was never separate. I'm doing this and they not. My children grew up doing fundraising. Whatever we was doing, they was doing. So they have the culture of Islam, not just in the mosque, but at home. We have a very Muslim household. Okay? So my trials was and is still working through them, and I thank Allah for auditing. But my trial was don't just go by what I say, watch what I do. You understand what I'm saying? So I wasn't that preachy mother. It's like my life is an example for you. So when they start to go through their trials as just being children, not just Muslim children go through this. Right. I have to bring myself back to the understanding that, okay, I've been through this. And I had to go and through that acceptance part. And one thing I've taught my children, I wish they was on, but they all kind of like in school or whatever, especially my daughters will tell you this. I don't want somebody else in the world coming to tell me anything you've done. You come tell me. Because there's nothing that you've done that I still won't love you through.
Right.
Praise be
So
to
my
God.
children, they have the process where they will come tell me even things I don't want to hear. They will come because I raised them that way. But my trial was understanding it. Because I raised you a particular type of way, you know what we've gone through. I put an environment around you so that you can be successful. My children was always into activities like, I believe in that. An idle mind is the devil workshop. So I provided every space and opportunity for the life that they want and that I created for them, but they still wanted to experience other stuff that was working. So for me, it was like, in all thine getting, get understanding. So I had to learn, and I'm learning even more coming in with my children, is that Master Fraud Muhammad has them, and regardless, they came through me, not from me.
Right.
So that part of understanding them and being patient with the process that only Allah himself has them in, is what I believe is the saving grace for my family and my children. Another thing that I tell my children is this, outside of, just knowing that Allah has them, I never stop being mom. And I tell them this, I don't care how old you are, you're not going to stop me from the title of having the title of mother. I'm going to always teach and train. But I grant them their beingness. Now, you grown, you're going to make your choice, you're going to do what you're going to do, but you will never be able to lay down at night and say, my mother didn't teach me.
Right.
And so I have that compassion for them, and I continue to help them work through their trials as one that's being on the path of this mustaqim that we live on.
Right.
And I a lot because I have Muslim children.
Yes.
That have accepted the faith for themselves, though they may struggle. But I guarantee you this, not only do they say it, they believe it. There's no God but Allah.
Come on.
Who in the person of Master Fraud Muhammad. And that's what I see in you, Sister Naomi. So it gives me hope and inspiration that even through their trials, the seeds that by Allah's permission that we have put in them, as the Bible says, you're a living testimony. Raise the child in the way that they shall go.
Right.
They may depart, but they're going to come back. And this is why, along with that, and I'm going to be quiet because I get a little full, we can't judge people in the process. You can't judge other people's children in the process.
Right.
Because we don't know how Allah is shaping them to be the God that they are in. All you can do in any set of religion, if you are in a particular type of discipleship, be auntie and uncle.
That's right.
Right.
Because you may have the ability to help bring that child through. And I thank Allah for the MGT class.
Yes.
Because there's many sisters that I was able to trust my daughter's minds with. All praises due to Allah to help guide them. All praises due to Allah. But there was also some elements that I had to protect my children from. So you have to just be the type of person to trust the process and come more up into understanding. So that's where I am in my life right now. It's like understanding that this is your walk with God.
Right.
This is your walk. But on that walk, I'm going to continue to be the voice of reminder of what the God says.
Wow, thank you for that. And it's Islam, like you said, Islam has you, like God has you. I remember asking my children, like when they got of age, like, what are you gonna do? Like, how you gonna live your life? You have to determine what direction your life is going in. So they're like, well, what do you mean by that? I'm like, what's your way of life? Like, I'm a Muslim. This is what I do. This is my devotion. You have to choose for you. Like, what are you going to do with your life? They looked at me like I had 5 heads.
Right.
They were, and they were like, we're Muslims. What are you talking about? Like,
right.
What do you talk? Regardless of what they're doing.
Yes.
They're like, we're Muslims.
Right.
I was like, oh, that's your, okay, got it. Got it. But there's a question for Sister Naomi. It says Naomi, but anybody can comment on this. I don't see it, but I remember it was, what do you think, what advice would you give? Or do you think based on our teachings, girls should go? Okay, this is from Sister Kavad. Hearing this beautiful testimony, Sister Naomi, do you think that we should allow our children, especially our young girls, to go off to college based on the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
I answered her, but what I will say is, for some of us, right, we know our children. We know what they're capable of handling. We know if they're one of those children who are easily swayed, and we know if they have a really good, sturdy, firm foundation. One of the things that I see now that I wish I would have had back when I was in college was setting up where your child is going to, setting up a team of sisters and brothers that can be a covering for your child. Because when you go off sometimes, you're the only Muslim. You are the only person who is in the nation of Islam. And you are surrounded by all these different things. And if you have kept your child sheltered, it's wild out time.
Exactly.
Yep.
Sheltered, I don't know, I'm gullible. And so people take advantage, right? But if you set up believers to surround your child, right? Link them up with other people so that they have a covering. I think sometimes we toss our children out there to the wilderness and just, well, they got Islam, right? And you expect them to survive. That world is a dog eat dog world. And
for sure.
Like Sister Zarifa said, when you said they used to pick up a bus, I went to Xavier University and we had a bus that picked us up. And that bus took us to the club.
Yes.
And that bus brought us back to the dorm.
Yes.
So imagine, imagine somebody who has never been outside the household. You have not allowed them to go anywhere. You only bring that child back and forth to the mosque. It's always Islam, 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 right? And it's only just how can I put it? Like an indoctrination, almost.
Right.
A little cult sometimes. We could be a little cultish sometimes.
Right.
And Islam is a way of
life.
Come
you
on.
have to show us where it applies. You have to show us how to properly use it. You do that by putting us in different situations while you're right there. It's almost like it's what the minister does with us. He never walks us into something without walking with us and guiding us and showing us and giving us an example on what it's supposed to look like and how it's supposed to go. It's just like when he walked us to the Church of Scientology. He went through it first before he even brought it to us. He said, this is what you do. This is what I'm allowing you to do. Here is the pathway. Here are your contacts. But sometimes we just toss our children out there. And it's like, whatever, you have Islam, you're supposed to survive. But guess what? The level in which we understand these teachings is completely and totally different. So I might be really at a base level and I don't understand the spiritual level of it at all. I might only have the words that was on a page and that's all I know, and I could be a parrot and repeat it, but I don't understand how to make that a living, talking, walking thing in my life. So yes, allow them to go to college, but you have to set up the structure where we are covered. It would be beautiful if we could have a Muslim university where our standard is what we get, but that's not the reality. Like even with me going, I went, Xavier University is the only Black Catholic HBCU.
Wow.
Period, right? And it's a very, in medicine, it's very high, has its own pharmacy school. The minister was banned from that school. He cannot even go there, teach, talk, nothing. So there were not believers on that campus. And so I was out there with whatever and whoever, so you have to set it up. Don't expect that your children just gonna go out there and, well, I put it in them. Okay, you put it in them, but we'll see. But I like what, and which everybody said about judging, right? People's children. Don't judge people's children, because the finger that you said you point at other people's children, it will come to visit yours.
Right.
And there is no parent who wants their children to experience discomforted things. And when we talk about a transit, things being in transition, we're taught that when you're in transition, the most dangerous period,
That's right,
is transition. And so a person is not where they are. They're not what, and they haven't arrived to where they are going to be. So we have no business judging people's walk. We don't understand what a person has went through. And just because we have these teachings in these Muslim households, the same thing that plagues our community that we're supposed to be cleaning up is right inside of our houses.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So sometimes when people are showing out and acting out and people's children are acting out, you have no idea what happened behind those closed doors. Because when we come to the mosque, we tip-top shape, had the bow tie on, the suit, the headpiece, and could have been and just had a whole family brawl at the house, and no one knows. And so when she's showing out, I know her parents, you have no idea. So just don't judge. Don't judge. But we should allow our children to pursue those things that they would like to pursue. Don't make the decision for your child and say you should be a A, B, C, and D. Let them decide. It's their life. They are a person. They are a being. And like Sister Naira said, grant them beingness. As parents, and this is something I tell my children all the time, you do not belong to me. You belong to Allah. And Allah will punish me for mishandling you or showing you or leading you the wrong way, because you belong to him. Even my 2-year-old, you belong to Allah. You do not belong to me. So we have to always keep that in mind.
Yes, ma'am. Wow, that's awesome. You know what you said, it reminds me of child Dianetics. And I try to put that into play with my now adult children. So in child Dianetics, it talks about, always telling children no, don't say no, but you create an environment that the child can just explore. So though it seems as though this whole thing is open to you, you can touch whatever, you can move this, you can do, but in reality, the environment is already controlled the way I would like for it to be set up. So you can go out and experience life and not hurt yourself. I remember Brother Nuri saying, and it made so much sense. He said, the restrictive law is not to stop you from having fun. The restrictive law is that you can have, I'm paraphrasing this, as much fun as you want without hurting yourself. So so, it's interesting how we expect things from our children that some of us adults struggle with. So it's very unfair what we do as it relates to that. So, but this takes us into, I believe, the next portion. Here in the southern region, I asked Brother Sharif, one of the things that I wanted to work on is doing like an internship. Now, on this Zoom call, there were youth from all over the Nation of Islam. And one of the things that I thought about is us being productive. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan talked about why we have so much sex and drugs in our community. It's because our mind is to create. Our mind is to bring things into fruition, to have something in your mind and you go to work and you bring it out into the world. Well, a lot of us in our community can't see an opportunity. We don't know how to do that. We don't know how to produce a product. And because of that, our creativity stops at sex. So we just have a lot of sex, and then we entertain drugs, things that entertain ourselves. But if we could get the youth partnered with believers who already are doing whatever it is that they want to do, now they have a safe environment to work out their field of endeavor, right? I may know a sister in Cuba, in Phoenix, in Canada, who knows how to do something that I can pair my child with so they can be successful. So now their mind is on being productive about building this dream of theirs, and it's not so much on these other things that they get caught up in. So Side note, if anybody, if you are in a particular profession and you would like to help in that, please send me a message, DM me, let me know what it is that you do, and just say you're willing to help. So as we build the registry of the youth, then we can start pairing them with different believers. So Sister Zarifa, see how long I've known?
Yes, that was way long. You
How long
went
I've known her?
way back.
So, Sister Zarifa, the question goes back to you as it relates to your walk and your faith as you were dealing with cancer.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. I better not digress again because we could go back into praise be to Allah. But Sister Naomi has a way of sparking something, you know. So
Yes.
nevertheless, yes, ma'am. So I was diagnosed with first of all, I never claimed that I had cancer. I never accepted that. That was number one. I was diagnosed with breast cancer November the 6th, 2012. Once the diagnosis, I felt a lump, you know, the self-examination, and I called my sister and told her as soon as I felt the lump. So she set up an appointment and they called and she put her phone number on all my medical records. So I don't have to hear it. That was a blessing from Allah. So when they called and said that, yes, you know, that it was cancerous from the biopsy. The first thing I did was I thought I was supposed to cry, but I couldn't muster up that. So I said, my first thought was, why has Allah put this on me? What am I supposed to do with it? Not about the cancer itself. I never had any doubt I was going to beat that. It was just, what was Allah's purpose for me? This is the truth now. I don't even know if I've ever said this out loud. So after my husband, I called a minister, Brother Minister Sharif, and I told him. He was just like me. He was like, oh, we're gonna beat this. Allah got you. You know, stay faithful. Stay true to Allah. We got it. I said, yes, sir. I got off that phone. I was fine. Okay. You know, and January of 2013 is when I started chemotherapy. My doctors chose to give the chemotherapy to see if the chemotherapy was working for my body. They have several different types of chemotherapy, which is one of the reasons we're going to start from my nonprofit that I started in 2003. You know about that, Sister Allison, Acts of Kindness. We're going to do support groups for this, but
oh, beautiful.
They started me on a chemotherapy, and then they watched it to see if the cancer would shrink. Now they wrote on they told me out loud that I was in stage 2. They wrote on my medical records, that I was at stage 3. Now I read all my paperwork. I didn't get nothing that I was not reading, and there was no names that they were calling out during my treatment that I didn't know something about because I was reading and studying. At that time, several people in Atlanta and all over the nation were battling with this same diagnosis, you know, with lumpectomies, mastectomies, all different types of things going on. And everyone had a different form of treatment. And we were all on various types of chemo. I had a support system out of this world. Now I'm going to explain. I had 500 people on a text list that my sister had. I didn't have to text anybody that wanted to know my every move. My every move. Every time I went to chemo, they wanted to know what was going on, when I was headed to chemo, when I was coming home, how I did that day, what did the doctor say. She would break down my entire treatment and how I felt during that day. From the points where sometimes I'd be sitting in the chemotherapy area, and I said, you know, I don't feel so good today. And she didn't say nothing. She said, other than, you know, oh, okay. And so she started texting. I was not looking at her because it was like every time I got in the hospital, I was sleepy for some reason. So, you know, I had my eyes closed during chemo. And after a while, I'd be hearing her phone go ding, 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 ding. I'm like, what in the world? I said, I'm feeling better. She said, yeah, those are the prayers coming back in. I sent that message out. I'm talking about Muslims and Christians alike. Because like I said, I'm from a Baptist side of the family. But all of her friends, my friends, people I grew up with, and my nation family prayed for me on a consistent basis. And one day she asked me, she said, do you mind me telling so-and-so that they want to pray? I said, all prayers are good prayers. There's no such thing as a bad prayer. So yes, you can tell anything you want. I ain't done nothing wrong. Allah may be using me for a particular reason. This is still my thought process. All the believers were praying. They will be calling. I used to get 200 or 300 calls a day working and helping Brother Sharif. But during this time, that number I had cut off because I couldn't handle all those calls. My sister would get calls. Okay, when I got to the 6-month period in my chemotherapy, they would be like, okay, what's going on? Because I would go in once a week then. They would give me chemotherapy, and the next day I had to go back to get a shot. Well, the shot would completely knock me off my feet for 4 or 5 days, and then I'm headed back to chemo in the 7th day. So that's how bad it got. So bad at certain times I couldn't stand the smell of anything that would turn into sugar once it got into your body, which lets us know that we really have the senses. If they're heightened, we can tell what's going on. I couldn't stand the smell of fried fish, couldn't stand the smell or look of bread, nothing that would turn into sugar once it got into my body, because they were filling me up with the product or pre-drug that had so much sugar in it.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't stand it. I hated it. It was like a metallic taste or something in the back of my throat. And I remember riding down the highway one day, and I looked at the people riding by, and I told my sister, I said, they look so healthy and happy. I knew I was feeling terrible, but I said, Allah still got me. They told me that once I got into chemotherapy, I was going to come out of my pumps as an MGT now. I was going to come out of my pumps and go into tennis shoes because neuropathy was going to be so bad in my fingers and toes that I wouldn't be able to wear that. I said, you must not know who I am. My grandmama wore pumps.
Come on, MGT.
She was 90 years old, 100 years old. She was wearing pumps then. So that's not going to happen. And so I never came out of my pumps. I thank Allah. Never. And one sister even told me after the experience, she said, you the reason I put back on my shoes. She said, this is MGT. She said, because I was wearing the tennis shoes. She said, you are the reason I put back on my shoes. I said, well, praise is due to Allah, because it wasn't me, it was God. Now, during my chemotherapy, I had a PICC line. They tell you about the port that they put in your chest. But in this hospital, see, I'd done my research, they flushed the port with a derivative that's derived from pork products. So that port, they would have been shooting the drug in there to actually flush it out. It had a pork byproduct in it. They used to use beef, but they stopped. So I wouldn't accept the pork. They had to do a PICC line in my jugular vein.
Wow.
So when they did that, they would flush it with saline so it wouldn't clot up, because if it clotted up, they had to redo it. But they had to do the little surgery and put the PICC line in my jugular. Well, when they did that, I had to go back every week to get it cleaned, even though we were cleaning it daily at home, but they had to check it every week. Well, a nurse accidentally pulled it and tried to push it back in, which sent an infection in my body. So before I could get back to the hospital the next week, I had a blood infection that was so bad till I was almost septic. So my sister called the doctor and was telling her, trying to get her. And so we had to go back in. I was going back in for chemo that next week. That week, I went into the chemo in a wheelchair with my pumps on, but in a wheelchair.
Okay.
And so the doctor said that this is the story she told us. She said she was there when we came in, and her nurse kept saying, okay, Miss, she called me by my slave name. She said, she's been calling. The doctor said, no, you must have had the wrong person. She said, no, ma'am. She said, this is the right person. The doctor herself, my oncologist, came down to the chemotherapy room and drew my blood herself. She didn't have no nurse to do it. That's what kind of relationship we had after she found out I was a Muslim. Because she was trying to tell me, oh yeah, you can eat a little, pork, or you can eat this. And I said, and my sister said, pork. I said, no, you ain't gotta say nothing to her. I said, she don't eat pork. She said, you don't eat pork? She said, no. She said, well, then why are you trying to give it to her? She said, well, some people do. It's not me. I'm not one of them. I don't want nothing with it. So when she got my cultures that next morning, she called my sister at 5 o'clock that morning and told her to get me to the hospital now. She's already checked me in. All I need to do is come and give my name. Well, she called back about 30 minutes later and said, okay, y'all ain't at the hospital. I done Googled your house to the hospital.
I remember that.
Now. Yes. So she said, well, we don't live together. I got to go get her and then take her to the hospital. The doctor said, okay. So we get into the hospital. I go in. That's when I found out that I was almost septic. So they had to try to do a blood transfusion. This is another one of Allah's blessings. On a scale of 1 to 10, they say, how bad is your pain with us trying to give you that transfusion through your vein? I said, it's a 15. Now I'm supposed to sit there for 6 hours with a 15 worth of pain. I told her she could take that. Now this is when I started talking, because my sister was talking for me before. I said, you take it out. I don't want it. Now, once they done expose the blood, they can't do nothing with it now. Well, that ain't my fault. It hurt. Too bad. I said, how much blood can I live off of? This is my question. Now, mind you, the believer's still praying for me. So I'm not worried. So whatever it is that's happening must be for a reason. This is my thought process. So I told her, you take it out. Well, no, what we gonna do with it? Who we gonna give it to? You already have it. I told her, I don't care if you give it to Jesus, but you get this needle out of my arm right now. Because I don't know what they had in there. They already knew how I was. I didn't allow any students to come in. They have a teaching hospital at Emory.
Right.
And so when people come in to see you, they bring a whole group of people so they can look and they want to see what's going on. And so, do you mind if we bring students in? Yes, I do. You cannot. I didn't even have a man until I got to the reconstructive surgery. I requested all women. I don't know. I watched too much television, apparently. So I'm a little freaked out about men all around me. What you doing? Even to the point where when I was in there, they said, okay, well, you can live without the blood. Okay, well, then I don't need it. It'll replenish itself. I'm not going to worry about it. So we went on to that second set of treatment. My sister was really taking care of me. My mom would come down. She'd stay when I had my surgeries. So the next year I had surgery. I had a mastectomy. And during that time, I was in a lot of pain. But, they helped me with that. They definitely helped me to get through that part and all of it. And so the doctor did the reconstructive surgery. I was so bent on Dianetics at the time, Sister Allison, that I was saying I want him to play certain music while I was in under anesthesia. I wanted certain things to be on my playlist because it made me happy and joyous when I was awake. And he said, okay. He played those songs. Now, it was a Caucasian doctor, but he played those songs. So when I came out of surgery, I wasn't feeling like I'd been molested or somebody saying something over me that I didn't know why I was feeling a certain way when I got ready to go to the doctor's office. Now, I could tell the difference in the first surgery I had to when I got to the last surgery. I had so many, when I had the surgeries, they attached those tubes to you, the draining tubes. My tubes started to fall out toward my last surgery. They started to come loose. So then fluid will build up in my body. I had to go back to the hospital every other day because of that. So he was not doing that correctly and properly. Now, Allah is so merciful and graceful with me during that process. Anybody that was going to do something that they shouldn't do was removed from my case without any interaction of mine. One doctor was so hell-bent on doing things his way, so he was planning to take a muscle out of my back, and I told him I didn't want that. He said, well, that's what we gonna do. He died in a plane crash.
Wow.
That's how powerful Allah was during my treatment. It was so amazing to me that when I go back, some of the stuff I'd even forgotten until I'm asked to recall it. That's how powerful it was. But Allah brought me through that. And then I was paying attention to how to eat to live. You know, we get real now. I'm gonna tell you something. We get real spiritual and we start paying attention. We fall back on what we've been taught when things come up. So Allah does try us so that we will have to call on him and fall back on what we know to be true until you get to the point where you don't need him to test you like that no more.
Right.
You know, okay, Allah, I got this lesson. I'm not gonna drop the ball again on this one. You
exactly.
know? So you know, I don't judge nobody else because the minister said you can't judge a man until a period comes after his name. That means he dead.
That's right.
So before then, you can't do no judging. So I don't judge people on how they handle it. I just know what worked for me. And I'm telling you, Allah removed all my obstacles so that I could go and be healthy. So I started paying attention to how to eat to live. I lived off of pickles and cheese and cashews. Now, to be honest, I needed the salt without the sugar buildup. So I didn't get that out of dill pickles. I didn't get that out of cheese, and I didn't get that out of for 6 months. That's what I ate. That was it. They wanted me to drink water. I had so much pressure because the chemo would draw out the fluids in my knees and joints. My brother went and bought flavors so I could put in my water because I hated water during that time. And he told me, you're going to drink this water. I said, I don't want it. I was like a baby. I said, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I was just moaning. He said, oh yeah, you're going to drink it. So he sat there and made me drink it in order for me to feel better. You know, sometimes you have to force us to do what's right to feel better. And that helped me a lot. So after my surgeries and things, you know, I said, well, praises be to Allah. I'm still searching for where Allah wanted me to go with that, Sister Allison. But I had a support system that was just out of this world. I still can't imagine not having those 400 or 500 people that wanted to know my every move. So I thank Allah for that. And I won't take up any more of your time with that.
I remember that. It was definitely amazing. And we really appreciate it. We started giving her the love too. It's like, we love you so much. Thank you so much for keeping us informed. I mean, it was a beautiful experience and a true testimony of the community and just how big your community was. And, you know, I think a lot, it's amazing when I hear you talk about it because you never was like, are you kidding me? All of this I do for Islam, all of this goodness I do, and you're going to give me cancer? Like, really? You know, and it seems like it affected your healing process, like your whole attitude about it.
Yes, ma'am.
Versus being bitter and angry about the whole thing. And
I was
something
never
you said, you never accepted that.
No, never. I always said I was diagnosed, not that I had it.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's powerful. And people normally have a better outcome with that. Because they realize, first of all, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all don't know doctors don't live longer than anybody else. So this cancer simply means my body is out of balance. Oh, okay, well, let's get it back in balance. You know,
your diagnosis is supposed to be that. Because right after that, Sister Allison, you know, there was a big write-up on doctors diagnosing people with cancer that didn't have it.
Yeah.
I was never even bitter about that. I said, well, you know, I'm gonna tell you, see, if we were not on live where everybody could hear, you know, I've been asking a lot for certain things about my physical appearance. I wanted to change and work out and do things.
Come on.
And then now, you know, and so I said, you have to be careful what you ask for, because, you know, you don't know how it's coming to you. So I was like, okay, but I'm so thankful that Allah worked with my heart and my mind, because maybe it's somebody I can help.
Yes. And truly, I believe you have done that. You did it then, and definitely by sharing your story today.
Praises.
You mentioned something about Dianetics, and I really, Sister Naomi, I want you to come into the conversation. I truly enjoyed your testimony on how that has influenced your life and helped you to heal and really just be a better Muslim. I really love it when, especially the believers, when the believers really use both our teachings and they use the technology. And when you use it that way, really as a ladder to climb, I see how it really brings out the beauty, the talent, the gifts, and helped us to be a better Muslim. So can you share with the audience just your experience of like Dianetics, and especially being, I call y'all Muslim babies, not to be offensive, but you know, Muslim babies. Because some of these Muslim babies, I don't know whoever's listening, if you could bear witness, you try to introduce some of them to Dianetics and they be like, what?
Right.
Like, did the minister say that? Like, I don't, how is that the teachings? They will give you the third degree because you done put so much Islam, you know. So
Right.
share with us how that has affected your life.
Well, I have to say, I cannot thank Allah enough for the mercy that we have and the love that we have in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That man is walking, talking personification of love.
Yes.
We only understood. Sometimes we can't really see what the bigger picture is, right? So we should just follow because he's never, ever steered us wrong, ever, right? And
Uh-oh, you going out, Sister Naomi. Is that me or did she go out for
No,
everybody?
she went out. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sister Naomi?
You can't hear
We
us.
can't hear you.
We can't
She
hear
can't
you.
hear. No.
can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I don't know how I went on mute.
No, we stopped hearing after the personification.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay. I don't know how to work Zoom, so y'all bear with me. But no, he is the personification of love. And when he gave us Dianetics, he gave us a gift.
Yes.
And if we would but use it and submit, right? And then submission, it requires us to just let go and let God. Like some people say, let go and let God. It is in his hands. This man has never, ever steered us wrong. So if he say, go to it, go to it. Get out of your way, get out of your head and submit to the process. Now, I'll be honest. I was skeptical in the beginning. I was. My mother and my father were laborers. And I remember it was this, this rush and everybody was getting ready to go. And my parents wasn't telling us what was happening. And I'm like, okay, something is up, right? And when my parents came back from the retreat, before it was even announced to the nation, when I saw my mother and my father walk through the door, I knew that there was something different about them.
Wow.
And especially my father, because he came in prior to 75 when the nation fell. A lot of times we don't know what the believers prior to 75 went through.
Right.
We do not understand what that's like. And I pray to Allah that we never have to experience what they went through, right? But my father was a different person. And I said, what did they do to y'all? And they were trying to explain, but they couldn't really fully explain. And my mother shared this story about what she covered when she was there was my grandparents, my grandmother, and I thank Allah for her. She's 93 years old. And at 3, she was a sharecropper. My great grandparents were slaves. So you can imagine how people were handled and things like that, right? And her father, when she said, I think she said she was about 3 or 4, he was working for a sharecropper. And now my grandfather, may Allah be pleased with him, he was an OG, right? They grew up in a little rural town where it's like one street and then it's just country everywhere. And he was a sharecropper for this white man. This is what my mother covered. And him and the white man was on a first name basis. They used to call my grandfather Mr. Levon. They did not call him boy like they would usually do the other Black people. They gave him respect. He commanded respect, right? And one day this white guy came where they were or whatever. It was a friend of the person he was sharecropping for. And he called him boy. And my grandfather was on a first name basis with the man who he was sharecropping for. And so the other man kept saying, you let him call you by your first name, like stuff like that, right? And we're talking about back in like the 50s or whatever, because it's Louisiana. It's not like the big cities and stuff like that. You still have places that people still work on plantations.
Right.
Let the truth be told.
That's right. Mississippi too.
Mississippi, that Delta area.
That's
whatever,
right. That's right.
Like that. So the reality that we seem to think that slavery just ended. Slavery did not end in some places, and people are still sharecropping, and some people are still living on plantations. Period. That's the God honest truth. But they were going back and forth, and so the man told my grandfather, call me Mr. Whatever. And so he said, and my grandfather refused to do it now. Now this back when they still lynching folks, they still running you off the road. White people got their side, Black people got their side. We don't fool around with each other like that. And my mother says that she remembered the day that my grandfather told this man, he said, I've been calling you by your first name all this time, and you have been calling me Mr. Levon. And I'm a man before I am anything. And he put my mother and them on the back of a wagon, and they had to pack up their house and everything and move. Now that was his livelihood, was sharecropping. And I remember my mama being so hurt and broke from that, and it freed her. And my father was freed from things about when the nation fell. So I'm like, okay, this got to be legit. And plus the minister said do it. So, okay, I'm going to go over here to this organ. I'm going to see what this is about. I was in school at the time, and I was in college, and I could not. First of all, if you put something in front of me, I can learn it. I can do it, right? I can repeat it. As long as you teach it to me, I can grasp the concepts. And I was in college, and I was having a really hard time getting past just one semester of biology. But what I found out is I went and I got a session, and it was because when my grandfather passed, my father's father had passed. And my dad called me when I was, while I was at that particular school. And I remember going back and smelling the rain. I had an umbrella. It was pouring down raining that day. My umbrella literally, you know how I go inside out. I was getting rained on. People was like, are you okay? I'm out there boo-hooing. And once I freed myself up from that, I started excelling in school. But it was because I was going to the same school every day, repeating that. And my grandfather had been passed for 6 years by then. 6 years. And I'm walking around, can't move past his death. So then I knew and I understood how serious it was for us to really look into this. So I got on course, and I was studying the Dianetics book, and I wasn't getting anywhere, right? So then we learned too steep a gradient, right? You got all these misunderstood words. You have all this, all these different things that pop up about studying. So I took the Learning How to Learn course and the Basic Study Manual course. And once I did that, I flew through it. And so whereas it took me a year just to get to page 100, did it. I finished in a month and a half. I finished the book and audited and got everything so I could get my, HDA and become an auditor. But while I was there, I experienced auditing on the meter, which is a higher processing, which is Scientology processing. It's different from just book one HDA. And when I heard the minister say, you go as far as you want to go, right? I actually joined staff in Baton Rouge with the mindset and the thought to become an auditor. Now, I always tell people this, I've only wanted to do two things in my life. One was be a midwife and one was be an auditor, right?
Wow.
Because I like to help people. I've always been that person. If you call me, I'm coming. If you say you need it, I got it. And sometimes it's at a detriment of myself because I just, I want to give and I want to see other people better. So I joined staff and I trained for a little bit, but I wasn't training for that. They had me in some other things. And so then I got married and I moved to Florida. So towards the later part of me living in Florida, I joined staff there. I had reached a point just in my personal life and personal development where I turned everything inward to myself because of things that was happening. And so I just decided to work on myself. And I joined staff there and I was going through the different levels. So, but one of the blessings that, and it's a blessing. And I look back on it now and I didn't understand it then, but I definitely understand it now. But as I was going through training as an auditor, while I was doing the levels and the processes, the teachings, first of all, I went in there with the mindset of what I have and what I have been giving in the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the supreme wisdom. Nothing is better than that. That came from the God.
That's right. Come on.
Nothing surpasses that. However, I know that my God, who came in the person of Master Father Muhammad, went far and wide, touching and teaching and dropping things for it to come back to us at a certain time.
That's right.
Now, I'm a very spiritual person, right? And as a child, I always had these little gifts and things that I did not understand. Like the laying of hands and not knowing that this is actual energy flowing through me and I can, manipulate things and not in a bad way, but in a good way and use that for good. Having the being going out of your body and stuff like that. And to be quite honest, because a lot of us do not talk about that, there's a lot of people in the nation, especially nation babies, who experience these things and we think we crazy.
Right.
We honestly think we are losing it, and you're not losing it. It's just that you don't have so much rubble on you as a child that you have these innate gifts that the God has that you possess because you're a God too. You're just not the supreme being, right? And you can exercise these things, but we typically do not exercise them, or we let them go and we forget them because no one has taught us that this is okay. No one, when we come to people and say, well, I saw this thing, I'm living in this physical realm, but I saw something in another dimension, and people know you lost your mind. That's spookism. Sometimes we kill that in people. Right. So when I was training, everything that I had experienced started to make sense. And it helped me understand the teachings more. I'm literally sitting in the course room, and one day I was sitting in the course room and I was, you have to do all the basic books before you get into the real levels. And I was reading this book. It's called 88008. That's the title. That's one of the basic books. And in the basic book, it talks about a process called black and white. It's an auditing process. And in this black and white process, you get a person to change everything that's black, get them to keep it white. And what it says in it is that it is force and power. Now, what are we taught by force and power?
Teach.
Come on, sis.
Force and power is being a guy. And I'm sitting in the course room and I bust out crying because as a child, I used to go into a room and I only refer to this room as the white room because that is what I know it as. And if you've ever experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. So I used to go into this room as a child, and I remember my parents used to whoop me for not getting up in the morning to get to school. Oh, I was always the late one. I was so late that the bus driver used to pass around 2 times to come pick me back up on the second round because she knew I wasn't ready.
Wow.
But what I did not tell my parents is that as young as 6 and 7 and 8, I was in that white room. And it really, I get emotional when I talk about it because I've met people over the years now that have also been in that room.
Come on.
And it just bear witnesses to that this stuff is real. But in that white room, there's walls, but there are no walls, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It's like being in another dimension. You know that you're in a room, but there are no walls. And there was someone who was talking to me. And he used to say, do this, he giving me instructions, right? And if I'm walking to get through the door on the other side, it would not pop up unless I had everything white. Everything had to be stark white. And I used to be crying in this room like, come on, just let the door pop up. Just let me out of here. And he's talking to me. Now I'm going to say this, and this is, I know there's a knowingness, right? You know your God when he's talking to you.
Yes.
And each and every one of us have a personal relationship with him. And we have a personal and direct connection with our God. And it was him. It was Allah who came in the person of Master Father Muhammad, who in this room as a child used to get me to use force and power, being a God, and exercise it. And it wasn't until I got into my training that I knew and I understood that that was him. But can you imagine growing up and people tell you, you crazy, that ain't true, you ain't talk to the God ain't visit you. Allah, who came in the person of Master Father Muhammad, can visit whoever he pleases.
Come on now.
And he can give you whatever he wants you to have.
Yes.
If but believe. But we invalidate so many times unknowingly, and sometimes some of us knowingly, because we've not been blessed to have that experience. But if you would your heart and your mind, then the God come and visit you and give you what you're supposed to have, because he put something in us innately. Each one of us, there's only one of you in existence.
That's right.
When he created you, there is only one you. So do what he brought you here to do. Don't focus on what other folks is doing. Don't let people validate your experiences, because that was me once upon a time. But when I went through that and I saw that was force and power, I say, man, I said to myself in that exact moment, I looked up at the court supervisor and I said, you know what? I say, boy, I love that man. I love the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yeah.
That's right.
This is what I needed. This is what I wanted. This was validation that I'm walking on a straight path, that he has me, that he's guiding me. And it looked different to other people. People looking at me was like, oh, she done left my Mars. And I was still coming to the Mars. I just wasn't as active. I was a lieutenant. I was over the Vanguard. But I took time to focus on myself, because I had given, and I did not pour anything back into myself. So they chose me to be someone's PC who had finished the levels, but he needed to audit someone. They teamed up with this brother. And at first I was like, I don't want no man to be my auditor. Like, don't give me no man auditor. But what I didn't know is that I had that was coming up was because I had so many issues, ARC breaks and communication breaks. And when I got on that line, almost a week just on ARC breaks. We did not even get into the actual session.
Wow.
Just on ARC breaks. I had ARC breaks. Every single one that I went down to, all the way down to when I was 2 years old, was with men. They left me. They treated me bad. My dad used to whoop me a whole lot. So I had so many ARC breaks with him. And it was because I heard the minister say one time that when a man can't control, when he doesn't know how to control you, right, in his mouth, because we got mouths, and that mouth start throwing them words out there and we hitting them wherever. When they can't control you with words, they control you with this, right? So I've been beaten before. I have been raped before. I have been yanked up and tossed like a rag doll. I have sported black eyes and a busted up nose. Like, that is my experience. Like, I don't come before people like I'm, you know, I have a headpiece on and I'm just this,
Come on, sis.
this great. I have really been through some things. And by the grace and mercy of Allah, I have survived it all. But when I went through my training, it made me actually look at myself and see how I put myself in every single one of those situations. So I had to take accountability and responsibility for what I did not do, what I failed to do, and what I did knowing that it went against the God within. And one of my darkest periods in life was my oldest son's husband, drug dealer, right? And a lot of people, though, like I said, they don't know this about me. I have been homeless. I have slept in cars. I have slept in a dope house, all that, right? That's what I was surrounded around because I was such a degraded person and I did not see value in myself and I did not love myself, right? So I used to always say that I could be a killer. And I'm not even gonna lie. At one point in my life, I did not care about human life. I toted a pistol. You can get this heat if you move the wrong way. That is the type of environment that I was in. My parents had nobody had any idea about this stuff. Because when I showed up at my parents' house, they got a Muslim household. So I'm going to respect their house and their rules. And I'm gonna come and I'm gonna look the part and I'm gonna act the part because this is a Muslim household. So one of my friends from high school, I introduced him and my husband then to each other. And later on, what my husband used to have, they's like swapping, you know, they was customers of each other. But what my ex-husband had, my friend died from. And I went into apathy about it. And I used to always say, you know, I could be a killer, but I started going down this chain and I was doing what's called a confessional. And in a confessional, you only deal with what you have done and wrought in your life, what these hands have wrought, right? So I'm only dealing with that. And I'm telling you, it's one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life. And then I went and I had to look at when my friend died. And he died at 33 from a heart attack because he was popping pills. Had he never been introduced to my ex-husband, maybe he would have got it from somebody else, but I felt responsible, right? And so I'm going down the line, and I used to always say, well, I'm not the one that's dealing in drugs and blah, blah, blah. But no, but I kept up that lifestyle. I never exhorted at that time my ex-husband to the truth and told him not to do it because the lifestyle, the bills are paid, the car I'm driving, the clothes I wear. So I'm right along with it. And so I'm going down this line of being a killer, right? And then there's this other statement I used to say is, I probably, can you imagine two of me? I bet you I used to be a twin. But what it boiled down to is I went all the way down this track, had some issues with my sister, not knowing where these issues stem from. And me and her didn't talk for like 3 years. Get all the way down to the bottom, and I start to ball into a knot in a chair and go into fetal position. And I feel all this pressure on my body. I was going through the birth canal, right? But right before that, I couldn't really see, and I kept trying to see what it was. And my auditor was saying, well, what do you see? You know, what is it? You know, whatever. And it's something was saying, which it was a circuit, a demon circuit. And it was like, you don't see nothing. You don't hear anything, right? Because I was getting to the crux of what it was, and I was about to have a huge release and didn't even know it, right? And then I said, I see something. He was like, okay, focus it in. I'm still looking, right? And I mean, the circus will cut your sound off where you can't even talk. They'll not allow you to talk. And this is what it talks about when the teachers say that we got to rid ourselves of the 4 devils.
Come on.
Each and every one of us are going to come in contact with those devils. And you really have to ask and call on the God to get you through it, because it's not easy. And sometimes it's also very painful. I'm talking about physically painful, because I was in pain. My body, it was like I was going through an exorcism or something. My body was all like this, twisted up, and I'm holding the cans. And I'm trying to call my auditor's name, but no sound is coming out. And I remember in that session, I called on the guy, because who else can I call on? I called on him. And when I called on him, he allowed a picture to come into view. And in this picture, all this time, I've been joking about being a killer, and I have been joking about being a twin. And lo and behold, he said, "How old are you?" And I said, I said 4 months, but it wasn't 4 months. It was around the time that, where you figuring out whether or not you turning male, female, and I can't get if one of y'all know the exact weeks, you can say it. But I called out that number, and he said, "What do you see?" And it was me, and it was another baby, and the other baby girl, and she had a defect. So as twins, one will engulf the other one, and then they're not there no more. And I remember screaming out, "I'm a killer. I killed her. I killed my sister," right? And that was natural selection. That had nothing to do, but that was underlying and undergirding most of my issues with my siblings, with my sister. One of my other sisters, my oldest sister, Nikita, I used to fight her, like fist fighting, when my parents wasn't there. And my sister that I didn't talk to for 3 years, at the end of that session, I released so much that I came out of my physical body. And I just was there, and I was just existing. And it was the best feeling I ever had in my life. But that's what I used to do when I was a child. I used to be able to exist outside of you're in control of this physical form,
right?
But you out, doesn't hold you, and you don't have all these pains and all this stuff. And it was the most freeing moment that I ever had. And I'm sitting there, and I say, I used to do this as a child. And I said, this is why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has us on this course of study, because it is to free a slave.
Yes.
What are you a slave of? I'm not talking about the white man. You're a slave of this. You're a slave of what's in that head. You're a slave of the thing that has happened to you. And you don't know why you're so disgruntled, and you don't know why you can't bring stuff forth in your life. It's because you got so much trash and stuff that's piled up on top of you. But if you would just submit to the process, like the greatest thing that we can do is look at self and deal with self, right? But some of us refuse to do that. And for me to go through the training, and I have to thank a lot for Sister Naira, because I didn't tell anyone that I was training. Because the few people who knew, I was catching so much flack, because people don't understand your walk with a lie. Sometimes he has walking and doing something that don't look right, but is right in the sight of a lie. So don't ever stray off the path that he put you on because it make other people comfortable. And I remember Sister Naira telling me, you keep going. You keep doing what you're doing. You keep doing what the God showed you to do. People may not understand it right now, but they're going to understand it one day. Just keep doing it. And you know what? This morning, I fell on, after prayer, of course, I always go to the Holy Quran. And I'm going to read this. And this is out of Surah 20, Taha. I'm trying to get this page. And it is verse 130. And it says, the title of it is Punishment is Certain. And it says, and had not a word gone.
You went out again, sister.
Oh, Sister Naomi. Sister Naomi. She can't hear us. She
You know,
can't
it's
hear
the
us.
energy. You know, it's the energy, right?
Right, right.
Patiently for a time is at once followed by an injunction to pray. And he did find comfort in prayer under the severest persecutions. So our Father goes through persecutions all the time. And the same walk he take, we got to take it too.
Come on.
Get up, pick up your cross. You're going to get them persecutions going to come. Because sometimes, like I said, people don't understand your walk. So I always kept in mind what my sis said to me. And she said it to me out of love. And she would always pull me to the side whenever she came into the city and drop little different things on me, or just call me and say, sis, how you doing? like how are you doing in your process and stuff like that? And I went as far as I could, and I finished 4. And right when I finished 4, I became pregnant with my last son, and he's 2 years old now. But with all of the cleaning up that I did for myself, I've always been in tune, like I said. And what you said something earlier, and I was like, okay, I put a little note, Sister Allison. You said you saw your children before you had them, and they would come to you. And so with my children also. But with my last son, because I was going through so much and I had got all the training, so my viewpoint was completely different. And when I say different, my reality shifted, because time became a consideration for me. What's time? You only know time because there's motion. I'm not talking about the system the devil set up where we got the little, 24 hours and, 365 or whatever. I'm not talking about that. Time, from the time that I had a thought, there was a delay in between the thought and my body actually moving into the steps that it was supposed to do. Why? Because I cleaned myself up. There were times where I'm at the fair one time and I could hear water dripping from a faucet way 50 feet away. And I could hear everybody's conversation ultra super clear.
At the same time.
Yes, at the same time. And I was completely unbothered. And I remember just standing there, just taking everything in, right? And I could see clearly. And one of the things my grandmother and my family used to say is we're seers. And I see stuff all the time. I don't share it with people sometimes, but I used to see stuff all the time. But it quickened in me. So I started to have more experiences. Either the minister is visiting me, and things like that. And so when I left Florida, I left Florida and I went back to my parents' home or whatever. And it's funny because today I opened up my little diary, right? Because sometimes I go back to things that I wrote. And I did a life repair because I was in such a bad condition. And I said, I got to do something. And Allah will send you helpers when you call on him, because he sent me angel, Miss Rondi, and she works, white lady. She works at the org. And it's $2,500 to start with, right? For 12 and a half hours. And I didn't have the money. And I remember calling and just asking her as soon as I got on, I said, I got to ask you a question. Because what's the most you going to do? Tell me no? But I know what I needed. So I told her, I say, I need to get this life repair, but I do not have the money. She say nothing else. It's done. I said, huh? She was like, it's done. I'm putting the money on your books today so that you can start, because you need to clean up your life. And I know you, personally know you. And I know that you love your people. I know you love your family and you love your teachers and stuff, and how much you have helped us here in the org. And she paid $2,500 for me to get that. But what I went through is all those incidents, what was holding me, and I had no idea, because when I had my son, I actually had an auditor present. And I also had my sister, Sister Michonne, who I call, her home is the safe haven, because when I was pregnant, she called me for something so seemingly different. And I ended up sleeping on her couch for like 2 weeks. And she was like, you want my bed? I'm like, no, it's big. And she allowed me to sleep on her couch, but it was some of the most, I needed somewhere to rest, right? I was Hagar, running in between to and fro. I was no longer in my home in Florida. I had moved back home to my parents. There wasn't really any room for me there. So I slept on the sofa until I was 9 months pregnant, and my brother moved out and he gave me all his furniture. So then I finally had a bed. but it was me and my children all in one bed. And I thank Allah for those humbling experiences, because just when you're at the bottom and you don't feel like you can come out of that, and you literally feel like you're dying, right? He always sends you help when you call on him. So I had to have my Hagar moment. My Hagar moment was to bring forth, like you say, bring forth Mary, right? He had to have me completely alone by myself, and the only focus I had was him. And I remember when I first got home, I was embarrassed. You got to fail, okay? You got another failed marriage. This marriage number 2 now. So what you gonna do? People talk about you. People say things about you, and they just really have no idea what goes on, in behind closed doors, and like really what you're going through, But Sister Naira always checked on me. That sister always check on me. There's another sister, Sister D'Angela, Sister Lachelle from Michigan. Like, these sisters used to call me, not call me to make me go into anything bad, but just say, sis, how you doing? Do you need something? How you feeling? We know you're pregnant. We know you're about to have a baby. But when I was having my son, I've had three natural births, right? But my last one, because I had so much stress, like undue stress and stuff like that, my blood sugar used to go to like 200 and stuff. And my sight would go out. I had neuropathy really bad. I was falling and having accidents and things like that. And I developed type 2 diabetes. But it was from being under so much undue stress, right? But the undue stress was really in here, because once I had my life repair, then my physical body started to heal. I was 187 pounds after. And when I was having him, I got keyed in because they had to check me. And so 26 hours of labor and being induced.
Wow.
And I was in extreme pain.
Wow.
I kept having my first son was like, I had him, didn't holler, didn't scream, water birth. My second one I had on the bathroom floor at home, unassisted. You know what I'm saying? So I had never experienced this before. And I had my doula, Sister Michonne out of New Orleans, and I had my auditor, Eve, and she's at the Baton Rouge Mission. And Eve was doing different processes on me, only touch assist and things to get to let go. And what came up was, I'm afraid. I'm scared to let this baby come out. Like, I'm scared to death. I'm scared that I'm gonna die. And I remember when she finally got that out of me and it freed me up, 5 minutes later, my water broke. I'm walking over to the birthing pool, getting the birthing pool, and my midwife hadn't even made it in the room. And I looked over at the nurse and I was like, I'm finna push. And
right, we're doing this thing.
Right. She was like, no, wait. I said, his head is crowning. She was like, wait. I say, I'm not waiting. Take this thing out my arm. Like, take the IV out. So they taking the IV out. And I just went into my zone and pushed my son out, right? But one of the beautiful things about me having audited, even before I became pregnant with my last son, was that while I carried him, he used to oscillate and send out vibrations to block anything that wasn't good for me. So some people used to try to come to me and they couldn't come past a certain point because he would put it out there. But I was so in tune, and I could tell the difference between him as a being and me as a being, right? So when I had him, it's, boy, Allah is so merciful. And the very thing that we're afraid of, he'll put it right in front of us so that it can become a healing for us. So when I had my son, July 4th, right? He had in the middle of the night, I woke up, he was burning up with a fever. He was short of 2 weeks old. And so I just checked his temp, and his temp was 104. So I got up, I'm trying to get myself dressed. And mind you, I'm postpartum myself, trying to get myself dressed and stuff like that. And I remember running downstairs and telling my dad, I say he's burning up with a fever, right? And he was like going in and out. So my dad got us in the car. We rush over to the hospital. We get in the hospital. They check us in and stuff like that. And he had an infection, right? Now, had I not had brought him in, because I had just woke up like in the middle. It was the middle of the night. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. Something just was like, Naomi, wake up. And I woke up and then there he is, right? And so we were in the hospital we were in NICU for 11 days. And they gave me a male nurse. I was like, Allah, what are you doing? Like, I have men issues and men problems, and you gonna give me a man nurse. Not only a nurse, but a white man. And his name was Mr. Wade, right? But I have to thank Allah for this. And I have to thank Allah for, he was sending me on a journey like, sis, it's time for you to heal. Because this man told me, he's a white man. But he said to me, I don't know your history. I don't know your background. But what I do know, that we're some of the most powerful people in this world. And he said, and if you don't take nothing else away from this, you take away from that you're worthy. And whatever your situation is, that whatever God you call him is going to see you through. And he was the most gentle person ever. Whenever he entered my room, he would say, are you covered? Are you dressed? And I was having to do S&S, which is a different system for you to feed, you feed your child. You can't put him directly to breast because he was too weak. And so when he used to be so uncomfortable because he would be trying to help me hook it up. And I had to tell him one day, I say, it's okay. I know you ain't trying to look and take a picture, do your job. He was a NICU nurse, right? Mm-hmm. But Allah put me in that man's hands. And while I was pregnant, my father, I don't know what happened or what changed in him. But my father saw a change in me from me going through processing and auditing and stuff like that. And I remember the first time in my life, my father told me he was proud of me. And it was so much healing in that, because I held my tears in when he told it to me. But I went upstairs after that and I cried. I was like, I had always wanted my father to acknowledge me, to validate the things that I did. And I realized growing up, because he didn't do that, I created problems for myself, because I never got the love that I wanted. And because I didn't get the love that I wanted, I did not love myself. And not loving myself then in turn allow me to put myself in different situations that I should never have been in, right? I want people to love me, but I don't even love myself. So I can't give to someone else what I won't even give to myself. I can't expect from someone else what I won't even give to myself. Like, I can't. But after my life repair, I handled being raped, marital rape. And that took me down to when I was 15, a friend of the family, right? Who my parents wasn't home one day and he had his way. And that incident, this is why I say don't judge people, especially children, Muslim children, when we go off to things, because sometimes we really don't know what has happened to them. And that incident, actually, when I got in college, I was promiscuous, and I didn't know why. Like, it was a drive, like wanting to be seen, wanting to be loved, wanting to have men and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I did so much damage to myself, not knowing that was at the bottom of all of it. But me getting on my journey and process of becoming an auditor, I was able to look and see where I was spiraling out of control, get a life repair. And what's funny is at the end of my life repair, when I finished and I walked outside, the song, He Lives in You, popped into my head from The Lion King. And I mean, it just cued. It was like cue in. And then I got in my car and I was driving and I was in tears. But something I put in my journal on my first day of being audited, and I say, today, the first day of the rest of my life, I started my life repair. It was nothing less of amazing. I removed huge charge from the past, mostly if not all sessions, typically reveal something in a way you never would have viewed it without the help. And it let me get back in communication with myself, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm back to me, unapologetically me. Yes. And one of the other things that I learned is I had been operating off of a state that said, who told you you can do that? So I'm seeking approval from everybody my entire life, needing people to validate me when Allah made me a sovereign being. I can validate myself.
Come on.
I validate the things that I do. There's nothing wrong with the things that I, as long as it falls into the confines of the rules and laws of Islam. And so I don't need anyone's approval. And once that blew, oh, it was on then I can look at myself and I can give myself the love that I need and love on myself. And it wasn't until then, I too diabetes now. And I'm telling y'all, I used to be driving sometimes and literally I'm like, oh Allah, please just let me make it to the corner where I can pull over, because I could feel it coming over my head and my sight would go out while I'm driving. And he covered me and he never allowed me to wreck. And sometimes I would have my children in the car, 187 pounds. And a year later, like this morning, I was literally looking for something to where I was like, oh my God, I don't have any more garments. You know, sometimes I be getting my little feelings, but it's because I was 187 pounds. And a year later, I'm 134 and in between 134, 136. Because when I release this physical, mental weight, right, then the physical followed. So everything spiritual has a physical counterpart.
Come on. Yes.
Mental issues and stuff that's sitting up here and that's heavy on us, and we wonder why we put on the weight. We wonder why we sick. But I always remind people, and I know people say, eat 1 meal a day. You wouldn't be big. Do this and do that. But you do realize that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says the right foods and the right thoughts. Right. I think sometimes we forget that part. And the right thoughts. So we bring all these ailments in on us because we refuse to release this. And it is one of the hardest things that you are ever going to do in your life, is to look at self. Not look at what such and such did. Not look at what such and such said. Deal with what you did and what you failed to do. And see where Allah's hand is in that. And see, since I've cleaned up all of that stuff, last year, I went to Sedona for my birthday, right? And the week before I went, I was reading, it was a testimonial book, and it was, I can't remember the sister who wrote it, but in it, it was a sister who was in the book, and she basically was asking Elijah Muhammad. She said her husband had left her for some other woman. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said for her to pray to Allah to remove that man from her heart. He said, don't want people that don't want you, right? Don't put yourself in them type of situations, sis. Or brothers, you have to value yourself enough to, you're not going to put yourself in them type of situations. But he said, pray to Allah for him to remove him from your heart and then move on quickly. He said, move on quickly. See, it's the power of choice. Make a decision. If something doesn't feed your life anymore, make the decision to walk away. It's your decision. It's your walk with Allah. Nothing else should matter in those situations, right? And I remember my boys when we came here or whatever, they was like, Mama, we like you so much more now. Like, you're so much happier, right? Then they start telling me, you're pretty, you're this. And I wasn't actually feeling like that because, again, I was overweight. But I started to then work on myself. I went back to just dealing with Naomi and nothing else. But when I went out there, I asked Allah. I said, I'm standing out there on one of the vortexes. Had my little crystals on. I was ready. And I said, this is the prayer I prayed. I said, Allah, who came in the person of Master Faded Muhammad, I'm ready. I am handing it all over to you. I'm ready to be made new. I want you to erase every single person that has been in my heart. I want you to let me let go of everything and let me just do what you want me to do.
Right.
Nothing else. And I remember the energy and the feeling that came through me. And then I went and I hiked another one of the vortexes, right? And I just let it beam all through me. And that day, 5 hours.
Uh-oh, you went out again. We lost you.
inboxing me on Facebook, hit me up on my phone. I really need to talk to you. We need to go over some stuff. I don't feel like we had closure. So I say that to say this. Pray to me and I will answer.
What answer you?
Answers his little girls.
Yes,
I am
yes, he does.
Yes.
him. I am not the woman of man. I am the woman of God. And when you clean yourself up, sisters, Allah will literally make you new.
Come
When he
on.
says make all things new, you've been raped, you've been molested, you've been beat, you've been hurt. Call on the God and ask him to make you new, because none of those things have bearing on my life anymore.
Come
And
on.
Allah gave me boys, not one, not two, but 3 boys.
Right.
And it was all to me like he was saying, your viewpoint has to change on how you view things, particularly the man. There are good men out there, but I always have to ask the question, are we good women? We only attract that which we are. We only attract that which in the areas and the places and spaces where we lack. So when I clean myself up, I dropped everything in my hand. Was like, boom, there you go, sis.
Praise
You did
be to
work
Allah.
and clean yourself up.
That's
And one
it.
of the Anya from the 7 region, the regional captain there, she shared with us one time that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan shared with them, because he when they were touring through the Caribbean, he had asked how many of them was single. And he was like, well, I can't marry all of y'all, right? And he said to them, do not focus on the kind of man that you want, but focus on the type of woman and the wife that you want to be, and Allah will fashion that man for you.
Wow.
Because
Wow.
you fashion yourself need to be. So guess what? He gives you the very thing that you need to keep it up.
That's right. What, Sister Naomi, you kind of broke up a little bit when you were saying what he said, don't focus on the type of man you want. Can you repeat that so that the listeners can really get that?
Oh, don't focus. Oh, yes, ma'am. Don't focus on the type of man that you want. Focus on the type of woman and the type of wife that you want to be, which that requires work, right? That requires you to work on yourself. Release it, sis. The stuff that happened to you, for whatever reason, it was by Allah's active and permissive will. It does not make you a bad person. He did not throw you away. He did not forsake you. He wants you to come closer to him. He wants you to look at yourself. He wants you to clean yourself up. He will make you new. And I'm telling you, it never made sense to me. I've never been comfortable being a woman ever until I cleaned myself up and I got rid of all that stuff. And then I said, you know what? I'm good with being me. It's okay to be a woman. Being a woman does not mean that I'm not powerful, right?
Right.
But I do not possess the masculine divine energy. Now, I have been trying to function like one, which is what probably brought a lot of stuff into my life, right? But now I focus on being feminine. And see, feminine is not a trinket. We got on head, we got on pretty clothes and stuff like that. But it's the essence in which Allah created you. And that's where my power lies. That's who I am. That is who I'm learning how to cultivate. And I thank Allah for everything that I've been through. And I thank Allah for every person who was a vessel that made me go through it. Because without them, I wouldn't be where I am. And I wouldn't be who I am. And I find now that there are sisters who, even when I was going through my own stuff, was reaching out to me and I was helping them and they had no idea. And it's like Allah always put people in my path for me to help, particularly women. And I'm just realizing that at 35, with trying to hit, certain levels, and this is a deja vu moment. I just have to say this because I've seen this, this exact moment. But at 35, I'm finally coming into what my purpose is and why Allah created me. Wow. Because again, I said I wanted to be two things, a midwife, right? but I'm coming to learn that it didn't mean birthing babies, right? We're helping women, right? We're birthing. I believe that my walk is, and knowing now, birth the women, bring them out of this has sat on them, and that they have not been able to move past all this time. So I'm a spiritual physician and I'm a birth
Yes.
worker, because
Yes.
birth real, women into this world and clean this mess that we
Right.
got on. We're gonna do it through auditing, and there no one auditing. Fine, there are others that can also help, but you gotta want to help yourself. You gotta seek it out and gotta be ready to deal with self. And it ain't a pretty walk, but we're
But you
here.
can
You
do it. That's right. That's right. I'm looking, if you keep seeing me looking over here, it's because I'm reading all of the comments and everyone really bearing witness and, teach and really, are you learning anything? I mean, that you all are really helping the people that are tuned in this morning. I cannot believe we've been on for 2 hours and a half. Oh my goodness. It been getting good, y'all. It been getting good. Thank you all so much. Most people are still hanging in with us. We're not going to keep holding you. I really want to. I think this is a good place for me to ask this, Sister Zarifa. We're going to have both of y'all to come back, because it's like everything that was said, we could just continue on that one thing for a whole entire show, instead of breaking up the show in different conversations. But I think this is a good point, Sister Zarifa, listening to Sister Naomi's testimony. And remember, everybody, it's a living testimony. That's the beautiful part of these women, that they open up. Thank you for your transparency, Sister Naomi, your openness, because that's truly what heals the people that get a chance to hear your testimony. So thank you so much for that. By having that walk, and even now reflecting, Sister Zarifa, on your testimony about coming through the dis-ease of your physical body and the spiritual work, and to see you over a house now of other people, not just your own personal house, but a study group we're sure will turn into a mosque. That divine feminine, and y'all, okay, this will be the last question because I know we've been on here for a while, but really to see the testimony of a woman, right, and what she's gone through, and the women in the culture in general, can you see how Allah has formed you, whatever your personal trials were, whatever you went through, to fashion you and shape you, and then put you over the house for the healing, the spiritual healing of the people? Can you relate that? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, praises be to Allah. I bumped the mic because I try not to turn it on mute. Thank you for that. Yes, ma'am, I can see that. Our brother regional minister was looking for someone to go to Athens. And I was sitting around a table with a lot of student ministers. And I waited, on somebody else to say they would take the assignment. Of course, I was in the ministry class, but I still was waiting on someone else to take the assignment. It's always been brothers in Athens. So it never even occurred to me to even volunteer or to even say I will go. That was not my mindset. I was sitting there waiting on what the next assignment, the next thing that he wanted done, so that I could try to do whatever it was to help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Because anybody who knows Brother Sharif knows that his primary focus is, if the minister says he wants it, he wants to get it done. Yes. So that has been his spirit ever since he's come to the Southern region. So I cannot in good conscience say I love the minister and I won't help the man that he called his best in this region.
Right.
So he asked and asked, and each brother that went around had, a reason that they couldn't do it, but they would have liked to have done it, but they couldn't, they were not able to. So I guess when he got to the point where I think he even asked the sister, or somebody mentioned the sister's name, I'm still sitting there waiting on the next assignment. So it ain't even bothered me. And so at the end, I said, well, I have to check with my husband first, but if he says it's okay, I'll do it. And he looked like, really? I said, well, yes, sir, but I have to check with him first. He said, well, once he says yes, then, you can go to that. And I said, well, yes, sir, inshallah, but he will tell me no. So I don't want you to think that, I just get all yeses. But so when he said that, I said, wow, so I got ready, to go to Athens, and I was telling my sister about it, who basically wanted to choke me. Because where you go, your family usually comes. So she thinking Athens is too far. You shouldn't have accepted that post. And she was complaining to my mother one day, and my mother told her to settle on the best part of the planet Earth. So she said, okay. So she started coming to Athens as well. Well, being a sister over a city, I don't know exactly how it is for brothers, but sometimes you have to look at it on both sides, because I have a brother that's a captain and a sister that's a captain, or FOI coordinator and an MGT coordinator, which are the people that are over the men and the women in that city. Well, with the brother, I'm still a sister. See, and the brothers are used to moving out and being over all of it, or answering to another brother, but not really used to answering to a sister. Well, the brother that I'm working with is a very humble brother. He ain't no punk. Now, let's not be mistaken. FOI don't have punks. So he's not.
That's right.
I don't mean homosexual. I mean, he's not weak. That's what I mean. I don't want nobody to get offended by the language. He's not weak. He's a strong brother. So in working with him, I still am a sister. I don't have to act like a man to be in the post.
Teach.
Because Allah has both sides.
That's right.
The feminine and the masculine side. So I don't have to take on the masculine characteristics to get my point across. See, because God put himself in each one of us. So that means that we exercise the power of God if we really understand. So I keep my teachings and my training under control. And I don't talk to brother like we talking brother to brother. Because when we first came in the mosque, Sister Allison, I don't know how long Sister Naira has been in the nation, but when we first came in the mosque, this is the saying that was going on. We respect the post.
Right.
It's not about the individual. The post is what's respected. So, and what happened is,
a witness.
Praises be to Allah. What happens is the enemy comes among us and turns us, and we don't even know we've been turned. And that enemy is the enemy in here. It ain't no Caucasian man in the mosque.
Right.
So you got to think about, where is he coming from? So the minister mentioned to us, because see, Sister Naira was hitting all over it. Dianetics just enhanced what we've been taught. See, so and I have to look at that. I'm not an auditor. My auditor is Sister Allison. That's my auditor. So and which is a beautiful thing. I'm telling you, I be feeling like I done had an adjustment and a nice workout session and a steam session and a mind clogging session, clearing and a detox and all of that when I finish with my auditing sessions with Sister Allison. That's real. I'm just being honest. But the minister said in study guide number 10, the God within, he talked about there's only one force, and that's the life force. See, and he talks about how that beneficence and mercy and all of that is a force. But we can use the force that God put in us, which is a part of himself. That's the only creation that God made that he gave a part of himself to. That's why he says we're the best of his creation. He gave us the power to have free will. Now we can either decide to use our free will with our own will and our own thinking, or we can use our free will to use Allah's will, God's will. and we turn our will to fit his will. And so, as a sister mentioned on Saturday, she said that the minister told another sister that, sister, as soon as you accept God's will, you will come into peace at once. So I've been trying to work on self. When I got to Athens, it was like it was a prayer that I had prayed that I really didn't pray for, that I didn't think I did anyway. When you are over or responsible for God's people, then you have to reflect God. You can't talk it, you got to walk it. And that's why I went. My family came with me. Each one of them try to reflect what's right, because I don't have that button where if my sister does something that's improper, I'm okay with that. But a believer, I don't have that. If you do wrong, then I deal with what the wrong is. It doesn't matter to me who it is. My own son, my sister, my niece, it doesn't matter to me. It never has. Now that may be a part of my makeup, that's the balance, but I thank Allah for that. I don't have that little sensor where you say, okay, well, she did that's okay. No, my family knows, don't embarrass the family. So now, if you don't want to I don't want to have to walk you out of the mosque or have somebody to walk you out of the mosque because you violated the law.
Right.
So don't embarrass the family. So in that, I take on, when being asked to, would I accept the post in Athens after I volunteered, I took on humility. I've always taken on, I believe, the characteristic of humility when you are being more humble when you're over people or responsible for people.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
You can't take on the personality of being arrogant, and you can't take on such a personality where you're so forceful to you. Everybody has to see things the way you see things. You can't. How are you going to grow with just one mindset?
Right.
All of it should be God's mindset, but he put various people around you to help you. That's what Closing the Gap was about. The book from Brother Jabril about the minister. The minister said that the reason the gap comes there is because the person who was born and fashioned in their mother's womb for leadership or for a mission that God has them for, God fashions his helpers in their mother's womb to be able to help that leader. But in different stages of leadership, the help falls off because they have not been made to go farther. So they're not made to go farther. So they end up falling off. Some of them fall off in various stages, early stages. And then we think we understand what that leadership is about when we really don't have a full comprehensive knowledge, which is why we should step out on faith when it comes to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Whatever he says, we should do. The Christ himself, the messenger of Allah, told us that.
Right.
Did he not? He told us, where you see him, look at him. Where he says go, you go. Where he says stay from, you stay from. What that means is you may not always understand. So you have to follow the path through faith. That's things hoped for, but evidence not yet seen. So we were given Dianetics a long time ago that came through self-improvement, which was self-examination, self-analysis, and then self-correction, which is Dianetics broken on down further to help enhance our lives. So I took all of that, and the teachings sometimes just come out because I've been taught for so long to some of the things you have to exemplify when you put in a position of leadership, which is what wants to bring me to this point. We are all considered leadership.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone who feels that they know God, honestly know God, you are considered leadership.
Come on.
Whether you call yourself that or not, your purpose is to bring others to God. That's leadership. How you going to bring someone to God and you don't exemplify God? You don't take on the coloring of God. You take on the coloring of someone else. If you take on the devil's coloring, then that's what you're going to get, a bunch of little devils. If you take on God's coloring, then that's who comes towards you. That's who you attract. Or other gods. They don't know that they're gods yet. Sister Naomi didn't know she was a god. See, We all have that little rebellious gene in us. And Allah has to whip us to get us back to him. So we get our spankings. All of us get a whipping for doing wrong. And then those of us who know we doing wrong, the minister said we have come to the point now where we enjoy sinning. Can you imagine? When he said that, I can't look and say, okay, Sister Allison, you enjoy sinning. No, he said we enjoy sinning. We've gotten so comfortable. So I have to look at Zarifa. Okay, is that right? I mean, is that me? What am I doing? Now, you know, I have to analyze myself. What am I doing? So that's the approach that we take in Athens. In Athens, we are on a 21-day cleanse, detox. And I don't mean from just the body. I mean, every 21 days that we started at the beginning of the year, we are to kill a devil within. 21 days, the minister said you can replace a bad habit with a good habit. Now, I know I had more than 21 bad habits. You know, so we start right then. So how many bad habits can I get out of me before the next year comes around? Allah blessing me to see that. You can get rid of, hundreds of devils or demons or bad habits, whatever you want to call them. So but you have to not go back like a dog returning to its own vomit. We can't go back to that. See how nasty that sounds? Right. That's the same thing when you're trying to be God's person, a person who reflects God, and then you turn around and go back to filth. See, you cannot do that. So I've had sisters and brothers to call me and say, okay, I did the 21-day challenge. I got rid of this. I said, all praises be to Allah. We have a believers meeting every Sunday evening. The believers, this past Sunday evening, we all got on and I said, well, let's just do a testimony of what's going on in our lives through the pandemic over the last few weeks, because we've had several deaths in the mosque, you know, several transitions in the mosque and in the nation. Even since July the 4th, in our own families, personally, whether they're in the nation or not. So when we started reflecting, what we realized is that all of us are experiencing some of the same things, if not just in different ways, but it's the identical same issues. And so I said, so what the reason for this particular type of experiment, if we look at ourselves as being scientists, this particular experience is what? It's to show us we're not alone. We all go through various things. We're not alone. So Allah has us all. If we just seek refuge in Allah, not in someone else. Brother Sharif told us, he said the minister told him. Now that's how we get it sometimes. The minister told him, he said that the minister said sometimes he would call the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad would be just talking to him, just nice, and they had a good conversation. And he said, and then he'd hang up and he'd call back or something, and something that got in between that call. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wouldn't be in the same mood. So you can never tell what's going on with a person. But the minister said he would call the minister, and the same thing would happen. And he would call sometime, and the minister would tell him, like the messenger told him, seek refuge in Allah, brother, and hang up the phone.
Hang up.
You know, we sometimes think we want to be that close to the sun, but sometimes it's very difficult. He would say, seek refuge in Allah, brother, and hang up the phone. Now, you knew in your heart that you need to seek refuge in Allah, but you were looking for some other answer from the minister. And just think he just said that and hung up the phone. Now, you could turn hypocrite overnight if you don't know what you're doing and who you're looking at. You could get mad. Something set up in you. The minister told us to be careful how we entertain him in our minds.
Right.
See? So I take all of that with me to Athens, all of the teachings, and I try to be the type of sister to my brothers and sisters that I would like to see in my life as well. I try to be the type of sister to the brothers and sisters that I feel that if the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan came to Athens today with Brother Abdul Sharif Muhammad, if they came to Athens today, what would the believers say? What report would I get? being honest about it.
Mhm.
See, so what report would he give me? Would it be, sister, you know, the believers say you a little harsh, or
Right.
you're not reflecting of Allah, you know? So what incident are we talking about, brother minister? You know, and then it's just basic, you know, they weren't able to get up for prayer that morning, and I fussed them out. No, none of us are perfect. So I try to reflect what I see the minister reflecting for us, and that's an unconditional love for our people, regardless to who or what. We should have an unconditional, and that's exactly what it says, unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless to what, if the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had stopped loving us, we would not be here today. If the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan had given up his mission or not accepted his mission, where would we be today? So who am I to give up on our people? I didn't create none of our people. I didn't give them life. So I have no right to take their life, be it through words or through deeds.
Right.
I have no right to kill the spirit within another individual. That's not my person. That's Allah's person. And I thank Allah for that. And I thank Allah for allowing me to be in the city of Athens, Georgia. I thank Allah for allowing me to come up in Jackson, Mississippi. I thank Allah for allowing me to work with Minister Abdul Sharif Muhammad in Atlanta, Georgia. My path was made and I didn't see it. I didn't have any idea of it. So I thank Allah for the things that he has put me through to bring me to where I am. And I thank Allah for the path that I'm on. And I pray to Allah that I'm able to help. That's my prayer. That I am able to be the vessel that helps the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to get all of our people. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to do. That's my purpose in life, is I want to be able to help the man of God. And I know that you can't help it without trials. I know that. So I pray to have the strength to go through the trials. That's what I want to do in my life. I want to bring all of our people to consciousness. Once you know that God came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, he is not a spook. At that point right there, you realize he put himself in you. You know you are God. Nobody can stop you. The only person that's stopping you is you in your mind. The minister said we go through confusion. Confusion will stop you. You shouldn't be confused.
Right.
If you know who God is, you know who you are. There is no more confusion.
Come on.
Then we can move forward and love our people like we want to love our people. The devil is an enemy when he turns you from calling yourself a little G-O-D to a D-O-G.
Yes, come on.
Now that is flipping your nature 180 degrees.
Right.
Bring it back. Bring it back. Let's go all the way around to the 360 degrees so it comes back to where it was originally.
Come on.
At that point, you begin to reflect the coloring of God. Then when your brother do something to you, you're not looking at it like, oh, he did it on purpose. You see one of ours on the side of the road. Oh, what did he do? Still, in this day and time, we got time for foolishness and we being shot like ducks in a pond. Women and men. There is no time for that. We have to unite. The strength is in our unity. The strength is in us acting as gods. That's why the slave master, when women used to pray and our men used to pray, they fall dead on that plantation. They ain't teaching you that part.
Right. Come on.
So they putting these little devices over our mouths. So we couldn't even talk. Because they so simple, they didn't know we could think it. See, they thought it had to come out in words. That's how powerful we are, and we don't even realize it. So, brothers and sisters, go back and listen to July the 4th, the criterion of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. If you've listened to it twice, listen to it a third time. If it's 4 times, listen to it a 5th time. If it's 10 times, listen to it an 11th time. You can never get all of the information that the minister is trying to give you out of that lecture for no 1 or 2 times. So listen, study it, study the teachings, so that you can understand who you really are, Black man and woman. That's what we're trying to do in Athens.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. All right, y'all. I'm going to end it right there. I just saw it's 1 o'clock. I cannot believe this. We're going to have both of you to come back. This is
Anytime.
amazing. I'm looking over here at the thing. It's just going. People bearing witness. I am so glad. All I can say is the women of Islam.
Praise
Living
be to Allah.
testimony. Living testimony. Praise be to Allah. So thank you all so much for joining
Thank you,
us.
sister.
Any last comments?
I just want to say thank you all so much for gracing me and us with your presence. You know, the time that we're in now, we understand, and this program bears witness that a nation can rise no higher than this woman.
Come on.
And the more, you know, the Savior say, clean up, or you're out of luck with us.
With us.
Come on.
Yes.
So we're in the process of cleaning up. Praise be to Allah. And whatever your route is in that process of cleaning up, in that process that the God gave you, embrace your process. Embrace your process. Because I know we're not just speaking to Muslims in the nation of
That's right.
That's right.
to you, but we are setting a good example by Allah's permission that the Christ that we all looking for is present.
Yes.
Right.
That's right.
That's right.
Bear witness.
Understand, look into the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That man is a trusted friend.
That's right.
I bear witness.
What a man.
Man, that's right.
Teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, all praises due to Allah, is here to bring in a universal government.
That's right.
Regardless of creed, class, or color. The principles in the hereafter is righteousness.
That's right.
The kingdom of God is based upon righteousness. So Sister Naomi spoke so very well on her process.
Yes.
Technology to help to clean her up.
Yes.
So that those study guides can permeate through her mind, which is the master
right.
art technique.
Come on.
Okay?
Yes.
So that
Yes.
the Holy Quran can permeate through her heart and her mind, which is the master technique for those of us that follow Farrakhan. I say this as it relates to the technology. It's a beautiful process. Embrace it if that's your route. It's not for everybody. You understand? However, anybody can have it.
That's right.
I pray a lot of that came across well, if y'all understand. Everybody not gonna do it, but it's available for everybody. So with that being said, get these devils up out of our minds.
That's right.
That's right.
Yes,
Devils mean the weaknesses of self. That process will help us to do it quicker. So thank you, Sister Naomi, for that testimony. Praise be to Allah.
That's right.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, Sister Savarifa. You know, when I hear you speak, and I think about the women that is around Jesus.
Come on.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
You know, that our love for the Christ will bring people to his consciousness.
Yes.
Because I know, and you have bear witness today, that if that man's words can save a wretch like me
Yes.
and clean us up,
Come on.
Yes.
have us to bear witness by our presence, by our
Yes.
actions, we on the right course. Praise be to Allah. So your life is a living testimony. Sister Allison,
Praise be to
thank
Allah.
you so much for this space. I really enjoy sharing this space with you. I really do. It's a healing within itself. All praise is due to Allah. So just let's keep building and let's keep opening up for our people to heal. And my presence, you know, here is just, I just bring forth the presence of love, because that's all I have. That's all I have, y'all. I have love for you, okay? And
that's all we need, sis.
manifest. May Allah bless us all with the light of understanding.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I have to go as a spiritual physician. I do have a patient.
Right.
Okay, that has bear witness and been patient with me while I'm on here. But Allah knows I love you all, and I thank you so much. Thank you, Sister Allison, and may Allah bless us all with the light of understanding.
Thank you all so much for joining us.
Yes.
The Women of Islam, a living testimony. And inshallah, y'all tune in with us on next week for Tuesday Tea at 10 a.m. Inshallah, we won't be on 3 hours, but yeah, tune in. Love y'all. Assalamu alaikum.
Love you too. Walaikum salam, ma'am.
Waalaikumsalam.